Welcome to the 444th episode of the Random Podcast from Heck. This is a podcast about random things in the world of entertainment, which includes movies, TV shows, and comic books. Big thanks to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. Last week, to celebrate the 400th episode of the secret podcast, I think it was a 400, right? We did an offer mine about a little moral question. Would it have been okay for Marty to use the almanac to make some bets within reason? You know, Biff obviously, and I'm talking about Back to the Future, Biff obviously went overboard and is just evil and a piece of crap. But maybe Marty wouldn't be. And you know, if you look at Marty has made some changes to his advantage already. So what's a few extra bucks? Maybe. Sometimes I talk about classic comics, like Silver Age books. I may do another one of those this week. I don't know. I have to see what I have laying around. Do a Batman or another Jimmy Olsen or Lois Lane or something like that. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or 3. And that is ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. What is happening in this week's episode? The movie feature is Scream 7. There seems to be a little contradiction. It seems like critics don't like it, and the fans pretty much like it. Where do I fit in there? You'll have to listen and find out. If you follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or Snapchat, then you probably already know. So we have that to talk about. Also, what I'm going to talk about, I guess I'll save it for then, is I saw the movie. I went to a theater that had that Screen X stuff going on. I don't know if you know what Screen X is. I had no idea. I knew that this theater started doing Screen X. I think it was like in January or something like that. But I was like, what the heck is Screen X? And then there's like a trailer like on YouTube or whatever talks about it. I was like, how does that even work? So I saw Scream 7 and Screen X. It's basically another format like IMAX. It's just something different, a different way to watch movies. And I don't know how I feel about that, so I'm definitely going to talk about that later. We also have more 56 Days, more Hijack, more Wonder Man, and more comics and more news. So as far as news, I don't remember if I mentioned this last week. I'm trying to think when this came out. Winona Ryder is going to be in Wednesday, season 3. Did I say that already? Or maybe last week what it was. I think production had started. I think that's what I said last week. And maybe this week they announced that Winona Ryder is going to play a character in there. Okay, that's cool. So, Winona Ryder teaming up with Tim Burton again. We'll see. I still need to finish season 2, so hopefully by then I'll be able to do that. What about Doomsday? So we got Dune 3 and Doomsday opening up on the same day. And a lot of people are like, oh, it's like Barbenheimer. It's the same, whatever. Which one are you going to see? The question is one of the two going to back out? Is it Warner Brothers? I don't remember who's, I don't remember. But the question is, you don't usually have 2 major films opening up on the same weekend. They don't want to compete against each other. Even though sometimes people like, let's go to 2 movies, or we'll go to a movie on Friday night, another one on Saturday night, or whatever, something. So it's tricky, and I think a lot of theater, a lot of studios, whatever, they put a lot of stock in how that opening weekend is, because someone might be like, well, I'll go to this movie this week, and then I'll see the other one. Maybe I'll see it like on Tuesday or something like that, or next weekend. But they don't want that. I mean, yeah, you don't want a drop off from the first week to the second week, but you also want to have that huge, massive opening weekend so you can brag about it and everything. It's a weird thing. I don't like the idea because having to choose. When it came to Barbenheimer, I went with Barbie first. I was like, I'm going to go see Barbie first, and then I'll see Oppenheimer the following weekend because there was nothing else opening up or whatever. That was just my choice. I knew there are two different types of movies, but after Comic-Con, it was that Comic-Con weekend, I was like, I want something that's going to be like fun and light and not like totally serious, whatever. With this, the other bit that's being thrown in with this now is it's sounding like Dune 3, I wasn't even aware how this works. Dune 3 is going to have like the IMAX exclusive something or whatever that opening weekend. So I guess that means the majority of the IMAX theaters will only be playing Dune 3. So that means Avengers Doomsday you won't be able to see it in IMAX. Unless it's like you're in a certain whatever area or something like that. Maybe it's possible, but the major places won't have it. So now it seems like a lot of people are like, oh, Disney better back out. They better change the date. Blah blah blah. But I'm looking at it. It's like, okay, yeah, that if you're an IMAX movie fan, that's a bummer. That stinks because you won't be able to see. I think all the other Avengers movies or whatever have been in IMAX. Maybe, I don't know. As the way I look at it, it's like I don't go to IMAX movies because I'd have to go into the city, and going into the city can be a big pain sometimes and expensive. I don't know, like, how much of an impact would that have on the box office? And I asked my buddy, I brought it up, and he's like, he said, and I don't know how much confidence, he seemed confident, he said that IMAX is like maybe like 1% of ticket sales. Okay, so 1% doesn't sound like a lot, but when we're talking like millions of dollars, whatever. So I don't know if it's a big deal, but I don't know. If it's for me, which movie, if I had to choose which one am I going to see first, of course it's going to be Avengers. I like and appreciate the Dune movies, but I'm not super gung-ho about them. I listened to the audio, I think the first two audiobooks, we talked about this already. But yeah, so we'll have to see what happens if, because other people are like, they should move Doomsday to Thanksgiving or March or something. It's like, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. So I don't know. I saw a trailer for Scary Movie 6. It was a Red Band trailer. I don't think I've seen any of the Scary movies. The comedy, the spoof, the satire. And I think part of it is I felt like they're just gonna be so cheesy and whatever. But watching that trailer, I was like, wow, they're not pulling any punches. If you're a fan of that, and have there really been 5 of them? I mean, that's crazy. So we have that to look forward to, I guess. Oh, big news. What's happening with Warner Brothers? And I still understand how this all happens. Like, why is the studio selling? Why has Warner Brothers gone through so many different owners? And I'm sure this happens all the time. We're just not that aware of it. But because we had I don't even know if the last one was the Time Warner Discovery whatever, and now they're selling it again. It's like people just not want to own it. They don't want to earn money. They don't want to make money off of this. Or is it just a matter of like, I'm just going to offload it and make all this money now and then go to the islands or whatever? I don't know. But it was looking like Netflix was going to be buying Warner Brothers. A lot of people were like, oh, no, that's not good because Netflix is just streaming and, whatever, all this stuff. But then a lot of people are like, no, we don't want Paramount to own it because then it's, the whole monopoly thing, because then, they're going to own such a big piece of entertainment. And then there is a concern, and I don't really know the specifics of this, that Paramount has a lot of like backers from Saudi Arabia or something like that. So we're potentially having a bunch of, non-United States citizens, whatever, involved with entertainment. And, what does that mean? Like, what if the powers that be in another country have a certain agenda and they try skewing things? I don't know if that's the concern. Is it like a political thing or whatever? So I don't know. Oh, so basically, Warner Brothers, when Paramount kept like raising their offer, Warner Brothers like, no, we're gonna go with Netflix, and everyone's like, For me, I was like, wow, they're actually turning down money because they feel like this is the better thing to do. Cool, great. But then, I guess Paramount kept going. They kept making other offers. They made another crazy offer. And Netflix was like, yeah, we don't need it that bad. We're not going to pay. It's not really worth it for us if we pay that much. So now it's looking pretty much like Paramount is going to own Warner Brothers. Is that a good thing or not? I don't know. I mean, it seems like Paramount's done a decent job with its franchises. Not trying to go into like political statements that certain CEOs or whoever have said, but one concern, like I saw on subreddit, people are like, well, say goodbye to Adventure Time. That franchise is probably over. I don't know. I hope not. So hopefully this will be good. Speaking of, I think it's Paramount, G.I. Joe, they're saying that looks, I think it was a Hollywood Reporter said that there's going to be there's a couple G.I. Joe movies possibly being worked on. And I think it was Danny McBride and Max Landis are working on scripts for this. And there's also talks. I think the G.I. Joe Transformer thing crossover is still possible. Okay, we'll have to see. I just say, you're gonna redo G.I. Joe. You need to lock in that cast because, I want if we're gonna have G.I. Joe movies, we should have more than one. So let's build the G.I. Joe universe. But you got to be careful. We don't want to have 30 different characters with no screen time for anyone, and you want to make sure you get the best actor possible for the major roles. So I don't know. Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse. So the crazy thing is, I think that was originally meant to come out March 29th, 2024. So I was like, what, 2 years ago? One of the things, I guess, what they said the reason it's taking longer is, they split the movie. It was originally going to be one movie, and they're like, there's too much story here, so we need to split it. But now that they split it, it's like, oh, you know what? There's not a whole lot of story left to tell. So now what are we going to do with this? We got to, what's the main part of our movie going to be? And so I guess they're tweaking on things. I don't know. But it's just, it sucks. As I always say, I don't want to rush things and have it come out to be garbage. I want it to be as great as possible. But man, it just seems like it's taking so long. Paul W.S. Anderson, he made a statement. He said that, and this makes sense. He said that he feels that it's outrageous that there are directors who don't play video games and then they adapt a video game movie. He said it was something like someone doing a movie based off of War and Peace, but never having read the book. And he's like, if you're going to adapt a video game movie, you got to be a fan of it. You should, you got to be play the game or whatever. But then I'm like, what the heck are you talking about, man? It's like, have you watched any of your Resident Evil movies? Now, the Resident Evil movies, they're not great, but they're not completely horrible. I within the last few years, I watched all the movies. I hadn't seen them all, but I did a series on the Secret podcast where I kind of did recaps on the movies and then just talked about it. So they're interesting movies for the most part, but man, I don't feel like they're entirely faithful to the games. There's some things that's what is going on here? So I don't know what that means. Terrifier 4, I guess the script is still being worked on, and it's almost complete. They're talking about hopefully having pre-production start up in the spring, so that's cool. And as always with everything, you can't rush it. You got to make sure it's the best it can be. So that's fine. What about Matthew Lillard? I love Matthew Lillard. Have I ever mentioned that? How he's such a nice guy, and is going to be in Daredevil. So people were talking to him. I don't know why were they talking to him? Maybe he was around for Scream 7, his former franchise or whatever. So maybe he was there to support Nev Campbell or whatever. But he's talking about, so he's going to be in Daredevil Born Again Season 2. Did I know that? I don't remember talking about that before. But I guess his character is going to have some like conflict with Kingpin. So that's going to be interesting. And also, apparently, there's going to be a time jump. The time jump is going to be 6 months after the last season, after Fisk declares martial law. Okay, so we'll see what happened in that 6 months. I don't know. And they also, the showrunner mentioned that there's probably not going to be any crossovers with MCU movies anytime soon. And he said, like, they're like uptown and we're like downtown or something like that. I just think it's a logistics thing also. And, this is the unfortunate thing with like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We had a little bit of crossover in the beginning. But I think it's just the production time for a show versus a movie, they're different. So to try to line that up perfectly is kind of hard. I don't know. That's too bad because, it'd be cool to see Daredevil hanging out with other people doing something. So I don't know. What about the Sony characters? I don't think Daredevil will be hanging out with any of them, with the Kingpin or Madam Web or anything like that. Although maybe at some point, but Sony is, they're talking about like rebooting or like reworking the Spider-Man spin-off movies. They obviously wanted to have more stuff happening, but things were just off, and it's just like, no, it's not working. Yeah, I guess they're just like, yeah, it didn't work. We're gonna try again. New actors. And Scream 8. There's plans already for Scream 8. Okay. Yeah, I still don't get why people. A lot of people I saw people saying like Scream 7 seemed rushed or whatever. I didn't really feel that. We'll talk more about that. Super Mario Galaxy. They're saying that Wario looks like he's going to have a role. He's going to be like teaming up with Bowser Jr. or helping, being his sidekick or I don't know, something like that. Okay, I don't know who's going to voice him. I'm curious about that. What about Jurassic World? Next Jurassic World movie might be called Jurassic World Liberation. Why? Why people think that's what it's going to be called? Apparently, a lot of domain names with Liberation have been secured. So it looks like people are buying different, whatever domain names and stuff like that. Jurassic World Liberation. Okay, interesting. Like what could that mean? What is going to be liberated? So we'll see. And then the last bit of news. So we got all the speculation stuff, and I'm always hesitant about talking about it. There's stuff saying that like there's like a major X-Men character is going to get killed in Doomsday or Secret Wars, or 2 Marvel characters are going to get killed, or this and that, and I don't know anything what they're saying. Like some people are saying that Loki is going to get killed, and some people are saying that this is going to mess up where Loki left off at the end of 19. So, I mean, I still wonder, like, all these scoops is it people like, hey, Scooper McScoop, so and so is going to get killed. Mum's word, and then they go and tell everyone. I don't know, because it's not like they're sneaking onto set. It's not like no idea. But the other thing, what else are people constantly talking about? Sadie Sink. What the heck is Sadie Sink going to be doing in Spider-Man Brand New Day? It's looking like we're going back to saying, oh, she's going to be Jean Grey. I mean, they never denied it. And I think at one point, Sadie Sink was like, oh, well, yeah, people have been saying that. But it's looking, what people have been saying, this could be spoilers, but I don't know if there's any accuracy in it, that I think she breaks Scorpion out of like an armored transport, like he's being taken somewhere. But then they're also saying that she is going to be hunted because she's a mutant, and whether it's like the damage control people that we're seeing like in Wonder Man, and they're saying that she's going to know Spider-Man's identity because she's has telepathy. I don't know. But then people are like, oh, she's going to be Jean Grey, and sort of they cast someone. We're getting young Jean Grey, and I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what's going to happen. What I do know is that I'm very tired already, and there's a lot more podcasts left. But that is the news for the week. So with comic books at Image, we had Hyde Street number 10. So this is Jeff Johns. Who's it? Ivan Rice? I forget who's doing this. But this book, this is crazy. I feel like there's so many different layers because with all these characters, they have these big backstories, and they're all from like different time periods, and I just feel like there's so much going on, and it's amazing. I love the book, and I don't know where it's going, and you should be reading this. 10 issues. There's probably a couple trades out. But this is really cool stuff, and it's kind of concerning. With it's like, man, what's going to happen? What are they going to do? So I don't know. We also had Universal Monsters: Phantom of the Opera. So this is Tyler Boss writes it. Martin Simmons does the art, which I believe he does the art for Department of Truth. So it's this very, I don't even know how you describe it. Very stylistic, very just out there, whatever. So I saw Phantom of the Opera once live, and I remember I have the soundtrack on CD. I haven't listened to it forever, and it was what it was. Reading this comic, it's curious to see, to read it versus see a musical where there's reading it. There's more, you can get more into specifics and all that. So I don't know how I feel about it. The soundtrack was great. I felt that at the time, but I don't have any strong desire to I need to listen to that now. Where'd I put that CD at? So it's interesting that this is being made into a comic. Will I continue reading it? Possibly. So I think when the next issue comes out, a month-ish from now, it's really going to depend on what else comes out that week. Will I read it? And so we'll see. There's another determining factor which we won't get into because no one needs to hear me complain about that. But yeah, so that was that's all that I read at Image. At Marvel, in no particular order, we had the Ultimates number 21. I really struggled with this. We got this fight brewing. The fight is, almost at the end. All the Ultimates and people are fighting against the evil, whatever. We're almost at the end. But part of it, I think the problem that I had is there's all these characters that they talk about. And as far as I know, they're all new characters. Because, they do a good job. Here's a little text box. Here's the person's names. Here's their abilities. And kind of goes from there. But one person, and I've been kind of skimming some of the issues, I think, so that might be another problem, and it's a me problem. But there's a character who kind of seemed like Cloak, but had a different name and persona. So it's is this supposed to be like Cloak? Just, alternate universe? So I don't know. And some things it gets pretty violent, but I found myself, I kind of don't really care, what's going on. And I don't know if part of it is, because they're billing it as the ultimate comics are going to end. We know Spider-Man had his quote-unquote final issue. So part of it is well, if everything's going to end, who cares? I still feel like it is going to continue somehow, and we'll just get, new number one of, whatever books they decide to put out. So, yeah, I don't know. There is Iron Man number 2. So this is a Joshua Williamson. What's it, Ryan Stegman? That's what I'm looking at the little thumbnail on Amazon. I don't remember it being Ryan Stegman. But we have Tony Stark being Tony Stark. A bunch of people have been kidnapped. So he's trying to figure out what he could do about that. I don't know if I mentioned Madame Mask is involved. So she basically kidnapped a bunch of people because they're trying to get their own Tony Stark that they can control at AIM. So Tony Stark gives out this award, like, here's Super Smart Genius of the Year type of thing or whatever. So the first issue, the person who won the award, who was the recipient of the award, whatever you're going to say, was kidnapped. And so it's interesting, because so with this award, they basically, I mean, it's kind of smart. Right? They're looking at it like, okay, this is the person, this is the winner of this award. This is who Tony Stark thinks is super smart. But just in case, oh, this person was nominated, they must be pretty smart too. Let's kidnap them. If this person was nominated, okay, great. We're going to pull them as well. So all these people were kidnapped because of Tony Stark, basically. And it also goes into the fact, like, the relationship between Tony Stark and Madam Mask and how they fight and they get together, and it's just so weird. Then there's Amazing Spider-Man Venom Death Spiral, I think is what it's called. So we got this crossover coming up, and we're going to have Spider-Man and Mary Jane Venom and Eddie Brock Carnage, and probably Flash Thompson will probably be there as Anti-Venom. I'm barely tolerating Mary Jane Venom, Eddie Brock Carnage, and is there anyone else? But what's to make things worse, one, Carnage is a piece of crap here, and he's definitely shaking some things up. But a lot of people have been killed, and I mean it's kind of obvious. As they keep it, like, during the middle story, they're like, oh, this happened to a person driving a bus, and they put on their brakes, and then the person got killed instead of, it was actually when you see the specifics, the person that got killed. But these people are they're the names you start to see. It's like, oh, this person's last name is Parker. This person's last name is Brock. This person's last name is, I'm drawing a blank, Eddie Brock. So someone's killing all these. Are they even related? They're distant relatives, and I don't know what's going to happen here. Yeah. There's a lot about Peter being back on Earth, and then he's got all these messages from people, and he's not really dealing with it. He's responding to some, but then he's just saving some for like a flatter surface. I don't know. Punisher #1. I was like, wait, what? #1? Didn't we just have #1, where he has a computer chip put in his brain and Kingpin is selecting him? So this one, even though it's a #1. And it's I think Benjamin Percy wrote the last series. He's writing this one. This kind of picks up pretty much right after. Kingpin put a chip in Punisher's head. He could use him as like a slave, basically. So it ends because, like, in the last series, so Frank had the chip. He got the chip out. There might be some complications with that. Tombstone was defeated. There's also another character who makes a return, and guess what? Tony doesn't like this character. I haven't really seen a whole lot of positive, like, oh, this is exciting. Maybe I'm sure some people are excited that this character is coming back, but so I don't know. We'll see where it's going to go. Inglorious X-Force #2, basically Cable witness, like, a mutant president getting killed, so he wants to go back in time to try to prevent it. The mutant that we're talking about is Kamala Khan, and the problem is Cable. Something happened to Cable, and he kind of lost his memories, so he doesn't know who the killer is. All he has is 3 names on his arms. He has Archangel, Boom Boom, and Daken or Halverine. So he doesn't know. So I think he's kind of assuming that it's one of them is the killers, but maybe it means something totally else. I don't know. Oh, did I say Angel? Yeah, Boom Boom, Daken, Angel. I feel like I'm missing someone else. But yeah, definitely interesting group of characters. Okay, we'll see. Mortal Thor, #7. I was really excited for this book in the beginning. Now it's not holding my interest as much, And maybe it's just like, wait, what's going on? Because, we got this guy Sigurd something, and he works in construction. And wait, what's that? What's he hooking on his belt? He's carries an umbrella around with him and everything. Okay, and I should just mention right now, because I've been doing a little pausing and stuff like that. So last night, I stupidly did not get a lot of sleep. I made it through the day fine, but now as I record, I get to the point where I'm sitting here, and then all of a sudden what's been happening is I'll just kind of pause. And then I just I'm not like falling asleep, I'm kind of dozing off, but not really dozing off. And then I'm like, oh crap, I just did it again. And then, a few seconds later, I'll do it again. So it's possible, because I will do my best to try to edit this. But in case I say something, because sometimes what happens, I'll be talking about something, and then blah, 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 blah. I'll just say something totally unrelated, but it's coherent. So if that happens, if I'm talking about the Punisher comic and then I start saying something about an airplane or a giraffe, it probably wasn't in the comic. Oh, so I was talking about, I think, Mortal Thor. Yeah, I just haven't been that excited with it, and I don't really, because I guess part of, and I don't what is exactly going on. Oh, we got evil Don Blake entity. What I don't care about him. So I don't know. There was Sorcerer Supreme #3. I was going to read this. I wasn't super excited to read it, and then it was a matter of time, because since I wasn't able to read comics early like I normally do. So I was like, yeah, I really like Scarlet Witch. I'm not totally loving this series. Maybe I'll try reading it at another point. Then there was Infernal Hulk #4. I don't love this new direction for the Hulk, but Hulk is in the Hulk space. Someone else is in control of Hulk's body, this evil entity god thing. Hulk realizes that he's not the only one in the Hulk space, because at first he sees Joe Fixit and other versions of himself and everything, but then someone else plops in and they're trying to get their hands on a hammer. It's not Mjolnir, but yeah. There is also Rogue #205. I don't remember if I read issue 1. So I didn't read this, again, because of time. There was Wiccan Witches Road. I didn't love the first issue. I think that was issue 2. I think that was issue that came out. Psylocke Ninja issue 2. I didn't read this one. I really like Psylocke. And I'm curious about Quanon, but I'll probably try to read this. So it looks like I didn't read a lot. There's the N2099. I'm not reading that. Black Panther Intergalactic Planet. I didn't read that. Predator Bloodshed. I don't know anything about this. Is this just a regular straight Predator book? That's what it looks like, because we had all these Predator versus Marvel, but it looks like this is just straight up Predator, which could be cool and everything, but I didn't read it because of time, and again, because I didn't get my comics early. There's stuff going on there. A Hulk smashes everything. I feel like that's supposed to be like a spoof. I don't know. Maybe it's serious. Who knows? Spider-Man Wolverine. I can't believe this series is still going on. It makes no sense that Spider-Man Wolverine would have all these adventures. So, I don't know. There was Daredevil Cold Day in Hell. No, that's is that it? Those are all the regular books. Okay, then at DC there was Absolute Wonder Woman. Can't see what number this was, but it continues with Zatanna, and then there's I think it was the Suicide Squad attacking Wonder Woman, and man, Wonder Woman she just kicks so much butt, and this is such a cool and interesting issue. So this is my favorite Absolute book. It looks like there's another new history of the DC Universe. I don't know what number that is. Superman 35. Man, so there's hints of the DC KO, which I'm just not caring for that. But here it's a lot of... So what do we have DC KO happening. We got stuff on the horizon with Darkseid. And Superman's not even in this issue because he's busy fighting in the tournaments or whatever, right? So we have Lois, who has her Superwoman's powers back momentarily, at least. Superboy Prime is hanging out, which is weird. That seems like he's good. There's a Superman robot that is helping them, but they're fighting evil legion of superheroes and who are like influenced or doing Darkseid's dirty work. And so I don't know. I mean, stuff with the time master. What's his name? I don't know. And then so I was kind of selective with what I read. Obviously, Justice League Unlimited. This I think was like a part 5 instead of what was it? The something 10. So we've been seeing these here. So basically, like you got Batman Beyond, you got Superman Energy, Superman Blue, or whatever. You got all these different versions. Harpoon Hand Aquaman. So you got all these like cool versions, but they're basically cut off from their time streams. And then I guess things were kind of like hiccuped or fixed. So it's like, oh no, they're not going to fight. But it's like they're on this mission, but it doesn't look like the odds are in their favor. And so it's like, well, okay, you might die. Thanks for helping. I don't know. So I haven't been reading this story arc. So I think this wasn't I think it's still continuing that. There was Absolute Martian Manhunter. So someday I would love to read all that. We'll see. Detective Comics number 1106. This finally concludes this Fear storyline. And yeah, I didn't love it, but there's some cool things, some interesting things here, and I don't really know what it means. Like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's some cool stuff here, but I was going to try to go back and read Green Lantern 32 because I'm curious what that cover is. Hal Jordan proposing to Carol Ferris, or is it just some faking us out? I don't know. The Flash. So the Flash 30. I haven't read the Flash. I don't remember if it was like around issue 7 or 8. I started getting a little bored, so I haven't been reading it. This is a KO crossover, so maybe I should just leave it. Someday I will read Flash again. And then I think that's it. There's The Batman Second Night. And I felt like I read something else. Maybe something from another publisher, but I don't know. Oh, I just see, I didn't read this, but I just noticed there's Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. Is that issue 4? Man, I'm behind on that. But I feel like I read something else, but I guess not. I'm just going to say that's it. Sorry, that's comics for the week. All right, Wonder Man, season 1, episode 5, found footage. This episode was kind of fun. Was interesting, and things are definitely. I have no idea what's going to happen, and you probably do if you've watched it already. All the episodes are out, so let's just get started. Simon and Trevor are sitting in like a restaurant, like bar or whatever, and Trevor comments about how many must have tried for the roles, and Simon's like hundreds, and Trevor's like thousands. Thousands had their hopes pinned, to these auditions. Somehow they made it through all the process, whatever. They were put on the list, and Von Kovac saw something promising, and they're still in the running. Simon says, he's like, I'm just trying to process it. And Trevor's like, don't process, just enjoy it. And Simon's like, I can't. It's like, not yet. And Trevor's like, come on, we're celebrating. He's like, no. He's like, you don't understand. He's like, what this role means to me. It's the role, this movie, everything. Like, it's too much. If I get this close and I miss, he like sighs. He's like, I should be in bed or the gym running lines. And Trevor looks at Simon's drink kind of like vibrating. So obviously he's getting kind of worked up. And Trevor's like, Simon, he's like, we got no lines to run. He's like, you've got to relax. He's like, hey, have you tried box breathing? He's like, what? He holds up like a square coaster and like traces it. He's like, breathe in for a count of 5, then hold for 5. He's like doing this. He's like, then you exhale slowly for 5. Then you hold for 5 once again. He's like, you don't think about the callback. It's your job as an actor to experience life. This is your life. You've had a victory, a moment of accomplishment. So fill your cup. And he like drinks. And Simon's like, we did beat out a lot of fools, didn't we? He's like, that's the spirit. And Trevor gets a call and he cancels it, pockets his phone. And Simon's like, who keeps calling you so late? He's like, a friend of mine from the pocket dimension I used to live in. So then we see it's Clary. He's like trying to call. He gets a voicemail. He's like, what are you up to, Slattery? So the other guy pops in his office and he's like, oh, you're working awfully late. And he's like, oh, hey, deputy secretary. So it's like his boss. He's like, I didn't think anyone was still here. He's like, yeah, just going over numbers yet again, trying to save what I can. It's nasty business. And Clary's like, yeah. He's like, how's your case going? He's like, oh, good, very promising, making lots of progress. He's like, well, I'm glad to hear that. I always like you, Clary. It's like, I'd love to keep you around. So it's like, he's threatening him. It's like, you do your job or I'm going to have to fire you. So he's like, all right, I should go. He's like, you heading down? And Clary's like, no, I think I'm going to keep at it. He's like, I'm in the home stretch, most likely. I don't want to leave anything up to chance. He's like, that's the spirit. At the restaurant, a guy at the bar buys Simon and Trevor another round. And Simon's like, why is he buying us drink? And Trevor's like, who cares? He's like, if we left when you wanted to, we'd be paying our own bill. Then a guy walks up to their booth and Trevor's like, oh, to what do we owe the pleasure? And he's like, you really don't remember me, do you, Trev? And he's like, yeah, we did an off-Broadway play together. The guy like scooches Trevor over. It's like a two-top booth. And then Trevor's like, Hurly-burly maybe? And then like three thugs walk up to the table. And the dude leans towards Trevor. He's like, nope. And he's like, American Buffalo? Then we see they're outside like in a back alley behind whatever the place. Dude punches Trevor outside. He's like, remember me now? He's like, no, but I really wish I did. So the guy's name is Patrick, according to closed caption. He's like, you owe me, Trev. He's like, a dozen 8-balls, 50 hits of X, 2 pounds of sativa. Trevor's like, that's quite a lot. And one of the cool tough guys is holding a gun up to Simon, like gangsta style, like, sideways or whatever. And the guy's like, that was your order for one Saturday night. And Trevor's like, well, on the bright side, I'm sure it was thoroughly enjoyed. And Patrick backhands Trevor. And Simon's like, hey. And then click. And the guy's like, you got some nerve, you know that? Really think you can treat me like garbage? And then 3 ladies like stumble out the back, but they don't like notice anything, whatever. And the guy's like, is that it? Simon's like clenching his fist. And he's like, you skipped town, Trev. You just vanished. Left me with a bunch of suppliers out for my blood because I trusted you. And there's like a big puddle and the water is like starting to vibrate. And then like debris on a dumpster is like vibrating, whatever. Patrick pulls out a gun. Trevor's like, can we talk about this? He holds a gun like right at the Trevor's head. He's like, hold on. Simon grabs the guy with the gun. It fires. He grabs his arm. It fires like just to the left of Trevor. Simon like flings the guy against the wall. Second guy like grabs for Simon. He has like one of those like extended baton things or whatever. So he gets hit, but then the third he flings him and he hits like the second guy or whatever like that. Then he kicks him. He goes flying back against the wall. Swings the guy that he's holding at Patrick, who gets knocked down. He still has his gun, but then Simon like grabs him, slams him against the wall, and then like knocks him out. So all this crazy stuff. And Trevor's like, bloody hell. And he's like, oh, it's like, I really didn't want to do that. And Trevor's like, well, I'm glad you did, though. And Simon, like, breathes deeply. He's like, come on, man. He's like, you know how dangerous it is for me to do that in public? And Trevor's like, I know. I'm sorry. The good news is no one saw a thing. Then you hear ding, ding, a little ring. He's like, bollocks. At the end of the alley, there's, like, this gate. But on the other side, like on the sidewalk, there's a guy, like, on a scooter staring at them. Simon's like, do you think he saw? He's like, I don't know. He's wearing a camera. And there's like a camera on top of his helmet, whatever. And Trevor's like, maybe he just got here. He's like, I don't think so. And he's like, well, he's not doing anything. He's like, hello, these blokes seem injured. Any idea what happened? The guy like turns off his camera and he rides off. And he's like, I think he saw it. And Simon's like, of course he did. So they run after him, but they don't see like him go around the corner. So he's not sure which way he went. Trevor's like, are you going to use your super speed? He's like, I'm going to use my car, Trevor. And Trevor's like, does that mean you do or do not have super speed? He's like, let's go. Then it cut the next scene. They're stuck in traffic. Why is there so much traffic? And Simon's like, it's a Friday night. Probably the Hollywood Bowl. Simon's like, it's too late for the bowl. And Trevor's like, it's usually the bowl. I remember seeing Cher there once. Breathtaking. Shaka Khan, now there's a woman. And he's like, Trevor, would you just please focus? He's like, It's like, what is there for me to focus on? I'm in the passenger seat. And Simon's like, I don't know, just look around or something. He's got to be around here somewhere. Trevor's phone rings again. Screen says Uncle Vanya, and he like declines it. He's like, she's persistent. And Simon's like, what? He's like, my friend, she doesn't realize that I'm a little busy at the moment. And he like, kind of like looks around. He's like, there he is. He writes her like the crosswalk in front of him. And he's like, well, what do you know? Looking around works. Simon tries turning, but there's traffic on this road too. And then he goes up on the sidewalk. He's like, oh, Simon. He's like, shut up, stop. He's like, don't say anything. He's like, okay. He's like, poop, we lost him. He's like, oh, my goodness. And Simon's like, what is it? Trevor's looking at his phone. Janelle just emailed us the sides for the callback. It's like, I don't know why they call them sides, but that's what the lines are called or whatever. He's like, what? And Trevor's like, what is she still doing up? And he's like, this scene's intense. And Simon's like, that scene's intense? And he's like, yeah. He's like, no, Trevor, please, not now. He's like, it's a Wonder Man Barnaby scene. And he's like, not now. He's like, Barnaby betrays Wonder Man. And then Simon's like, what? So Simon like skids a stop on the side of the road. Like he like parks. He's like, let me see that. And he's like, look, but Barnaby's his only friend. He's like, yeah, I know. And he's like, look at this, Barnaby. He found my price, Wonder Man. I just pray you never have to learn yours. I think it's going to be quite moving. And Simon's like, yeah, but if that footage gets out, I won't even be acting in a dog food commercial. It's like, where the hell is this guy? And Simon's like, is that him? There's a guy like standing next to a dumpster, helmet in hand, like scooter lying next to him. And Simon's like, what's he doing? He's like, looks like he wants us to chase him. And Simon's like, well, let's hurry then. Opens the car door. Guy heads into the alley. And Trevor's like, don't let me hold you back. The guy goes into like the side door of a building. They go in after. There's like the back hallways, whatever. There's like all these different doors are locked. It's like, is this a restaurant? What's going on? And the door opens. A couple walks out. There's like loud music. It's like, is this a club? Like, what is going on? Trevor's like, this is nifty. He's like, I think we should remember this for another time. He's like, yeah, I'll put on our list. He's like, splendid. So there's this lady like hosted whatever. She's like, do you have a reservation? Simon's like, no, but they're meeting a friend. So she's like, okay. Then they see him sitting like at a booth. Simon's like, he knows that we're not going to make a scene in public. And Trevor's like, aren't we? He's like, no, we're not. He's like, oh. So Simon's like, hi. And the guy's like, how's it going, guys? And then he's like, so you may have seen something back there in the alley looking a little odd under a certain light. And the guy's like, no, nothing looked odd. From what I was saying, it was pretty clear. But also, I have all the footage on GoPro. He's like, okay, understood. Where's the GoPro? He's like, it's stashed away somewhere safe. And Trevor's like, he's hustling us. Oh, this little guy's a little hustler. And he's like, I know what you're capable of, and I get that you might want to keep it a secret, and that's cool with me, okay? But I might need a little hand with something. And Trevor's like, no deal. You're clearly untrustworthy. He's clearly untrustworthy. And Simon's like, just chill. It's like, what if we decide not to help? He's like, oh, then the footage automatically gets uploaded to YouTube at 9 a.m. And Trevor's like, can he do that? And Simon's like, I don't know. You can't do it. And Trevor's like, well, you're the tech wizard. You've got all those apps on your phone. And Simon's like, no, that's not the same thing, Trevor. He's like, it sounds possible? The guy's like, yeah, it's possible. Trust me. And Trevor's like, we've already established that no one can trust you. So then Simon sits next to him. He's like, what do you want? So the guy's like, okay, there's this a-hole Esteban. And 3 weeks ago, he stole my motorcycle. And it's why I have to do all my business on these crappy scooters. Trevor's like, business? And he laughs. He's like, most likely something illegal, I bet. He's like, no, in this one. The guy's like, look, for someone like you, it would be a piece of cake, okay? I know where he has a bike. Basically, you just got to show up, give Esteban a scare, I get my motorcycle back, and you can delete the footage. Easy. And Trevor's like, I don't like it. The guy's like, we don't have a choice, Trevor. And the guy's like, sounds like we got a deal. So they drive to the burbs. Kid says that Esteban's probably having a bagging party. And then, they park on the side of the road. He's like, there's my bike. He's like, oh, slap. Esteban will be pooping his pants and begging you to take the keys. He's like, trust me. So Simon's like, okay, wait here. He's like, we'll handle this. So they get out. There's like neighbor like watering her lawn. Just looks at them. Trevor's asks what's the plan, and Simon says that they pretend that they're undercover cops, that they're in the neighborhood on another case meeting with the CI. They clocked suspicious activity, random plates on a motorcycle, and it came up stolen. He's like, brilliant. I love all the police lingo. And Simon's like, Law and Order, season 14. Can I get a witness? Blah, blah, blah. Talking about other stuff. He's like, I still remember most of the dialogue. Knocks on the door. A woman answers. He's like, is Esteban home? And she's like, who are you guys? And Simon's like, we'll be the one asking questions, ma'am. And she's like, holy poop, aren't you the Mandarin? Yo, Esteban, the freaking Mandarin just showed up. And she's like, come on in. And Trevor's like, I think our cover's blown. And Simon's like, mm-hmm. Inside, the guy's like, what? It really is the Mandarin. Bro, we used to scare each other in the middle school doing Mandarin impressions. Yo, America, this is another lesson. And Trevor, like, looks disturbed. And Esteban's like, what the hell are you doing here, bro? He's like, who's your friend? He's like, Simon. And Trevor's like, we're industry friends. Simon's like, look, we don't want any trouble, okay? Just give us a motorcycle. We won't have to call the cops. So the guy laughs. He's like, come on, man. Call the cops for what? And Simon's like, well, a stolen bike for one thing, and then this? Because there's like others like in a dining room table, like they're making something. It's like already making drugs or whatever. But Esteban's like, the candy? Trevor's like, we're not idiots. Espadian. He calls him something different. It's like, I don't know if he's doing it on purpose or just doesn't know what his name is. He's like, these are clearly drugs of some kind, possibly laced with angel dust. And the lady who answered, or the girl answered her, she's like, angel dust? She's like, when was the last time you did drugs? And the guy's like, bruh, this is homemade candy. It's like chamoy. Simon's like, chamoy? And the guy's like, that's why everyone needs Latin friends, bro. So he explains what's at the table, like just fruit and gummies and whatever, stuff like that. And then he offers them some. Simon like turns it down at first. And Trevor like takes one, like a peach ring or something like that, gummy ring. And he's like, oh my goodness. And he's like, that's incredible. And Esteban's like, sweet, spicy, sour. And Trevor's like, Simon, you've got to try one. And Simon's like, I really just want to get Jaden's bike and be on our way. And then, so Jaden's the guy on the scooter. But Esteban's like, wait, Jaden? It's like, that's who told you the motorcycle was stolen? And Simon's like, yeah. And then Esteban's like, now it's starting to make sense, man. He's like, you can't trust that guy for poop. Trevor's like, I told you, Simon. And Simon's like, what makes you so sure that we can trust Esteban? And he's like, try a peach ring, you'll understand. And Esteban's like, look, man, you go back and tell Jaden if he wants my bike, he's going to have to come and take it himself instead of sending Beavis and Butthead. So Simon starts like taking steps towards Esteban. When Trevor cuts in, he's like, yeah, if you don't mind, what's the story with you and Jaden? There's obviously some history here. And Esteban's like, well, yeah, we used to be boys. And Trevor's like, oh? He's like, we started this whole chamoy candy operation together. Chamoy dudes. Poop blew up fast. The minute he got a taste of success, everything changed. Suddenly, the knives came out. Wants to fight over every little thing. We had to go our separate ways. He started his own operation. And Trevor's like, well, certainly can't compete with these peach rings. And the guy's like, just got to be careful with who you partner up with, right? And Trevor's like, he's right. We can learn a lot from Esteban or something. He's like, so, do you want to tell Jaden the deal is off or shall I? And Simon's like, what are you talking about, Trevor? And then he's like, hold on, Jaden's here with y'all? And Trevor's like, yeah, he's in the car. And Simon's like, no, Trevor, we have to finish this job, remember? It's important. He's like, yeah, unfortunately, we've aligned ourselves with the wrong man. So Jaden's like bored in the car, and you see another car like parked behind him. It's Patrick and his goons. He like knocks on the window with his gun, and he's like, "Oh poop, hey!" And Patrick yanks him out. Where the hell is Trevor Slattery? And Jaden like points at the house. Simon's like, "You don't know that?" And Trevor's like, "Yes, I do. Clearly, Esteban's the only man of principle amongst a whole lot." And then the girl's, her name's Stephanie. She's like, "Oh poop, you know what I just realized? The mandarins." The guy's like, Diablo, yo, that's right. We can get a video of a mandarin making a batch of mandarins. She's like, that would be crazy. It would be so good. And Saban's like, come on, please. And Troy's like, I'm sorry. I couldn't possibly. That role is a source of great pain for me. Then there's like a banging on the door. Patrick yells, Trevor Slattery, blood, and he's like, bloody hell. He's like, get out here now. But Trevor's like, I'd rather not. And he's like, then we kill your friend Jaden. And Trevor's like, please do. And Simon's like, Trevor? He's like, I mean, he's no friend of mine. And Saban's like, hell no, man. He's like, y'all gotta go. He's like, I don't need this kind of trouble here. And Jaden's like, you can hear him outside. He's like, help me, Trevor. And he's like, not bloody likely. And then he says that, he won't post a video. And then you're like, shut up. And then he hits Jaden. And Trevor's like, oh, quick question. He asks the girl, he's like, can someone set a GoPro to automatically upload a video to YouTube? And she's like, straight from the camera? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, without a laptop? And he's like, without a laptop. And she's like, no. It's like, you have to download the footage first. And he's like, so whatever's on that camera is the only copy? She's like, yes. He's like, I knew it. And Saban's like, hey, you guys got to go, man. And Trevor's like, we just need that GoPro. We're golden. And Simon's like, is that right? Trevor's like, Jaden's been lying to us the whole time. And the guy's like, I'm going to count to 10, Trevor. And Saban's like, hey, Mandarin, you got to get out of here, bro. And Trevor's like, just shove the GoPro through the mail slot. He's like talking to Jaden. He's like, so Jaden slides it through. Patrick's counting, and I think he's like at number 7. And Trevor's like, I'm proud of you, Jaden. And Jaden's like, please don't let me die. And he's like, Esteban, I'm sorry about Chamoy dudes, okay? He's like, I got greedy. So he's like 5. And then Esteban's like, you did it. You did, bro, but it's okay. I forgive you. So the girl's looking at the camera until she deletes the file. And Esteban's like, I don't want anybody to die today. Sirens are coming, so she tells Esteban that they have to go. And he's like, Esteban's like, no, I can't just leave him here. Simon's phone buzzes. He's like, oh, poop, it's Janelle. So cops pull up, and they're like, hands up. Simon talks to Janelle, and she's like, oh, my God, Simon, thank God you answered. And he's like, I'm going to have to call you back, Janelle. And she's like, Simon, listen to me. Do not hang up this phone. And Patrick, he's like, we're just having a conversation, officer. The neighbor lady, she's like, they're drug dealers, all of them. From inside, Esteban's like, we just make candy, Mrs. Gonzalez. Janelle asks, she's like, what the hell's going on over there? And Simon's like, yeah, it's not a great time. So officer tells Patrick, drop the weapon, now. Esteban opens the door, lets Jaden in real quick. And you hear, if you do not drop that weapon. And Janelle's like, listen to me, Simon. Von Kovac is leaving town tomorrow. He's like, the callback has been moved up. And he's like, what? She's like, the callback is happening now. Get your ass to Von Kovac's house as fast as you can. And the officer's like, put the gun down. And there's gun firing. He's like, oh, shh. He's like, we got to go. Everyone runs out the back door. They go, they go outside. Or the house, they go around. They make it to the car. And Trevor's like, we're in the wrong seats. And Simon's like, Trevor, just drive. So he does a U-turn, in the road. They drive, away from Esteban's. And that's the end of the episode. So it's just, it's kind of crazy, a little chaotic. And so all this, whose motorcycle was it? Was it really Jaden's, or was it Esteban? And is Esteban, or is Jaden just trying to steal the motorcycle? But yeah, so that was the episode. So next episode's callback. So I guess the next episode, they're going to get in front of, with Kovac and meet, and we'll see. So yeah, that was episode 5. We're getting close to the end. All right, Hijack. We're getting close to the end. Hijack, season 2, episode 6, Junction. So, what could possibly happen now? Last episode, there is a freaking explosion, and does everyone survive? Anyone survive? It starts off at control. There's an alarm going off, and then the lights showing the train disappear. And Winter's like, she's like, what? Why'd that happen? And Mr. Deal, the manager, he's like, I'm not sure. He's like, possibly some kind of power surge. And Winter asks, she's like, an explosion? And he's like, I don't know. He's like, perhaps. And she's like, got first responders over there. And then her officer guy, I don't know what's up with this guy. I don't think he's dirty or anything like that. I don't think he was the guy that met with Sam. I don't know who that is. I mean, I'm a little confused with that. We may find out here, but it doesn't make sense. But one of the things that bothers me is he's constantly questioning Winter. Winter is like the chief of police. And he's like, are you sure you want to do it? It's like, dude, just because you're a dude doesn't mean you question everything that she does. And a lot of times she kind of gives into it, which is annoying, but whatever. But here, he's like, he's on the phone. He's like, the first responders on their way. Then Clark quietly says to Mr. Dio, is like, they could be dead. And then he was on the phone with the guy. He says they're trying to get the tracking system back online. The officer guy wants to get Bailey Brown back to the safe house. And Winter's like, we don't know what happened yet. And he's like, every second that the convoy isn't moving, it's vulnerable. And Winter like thinks about this. It's like, dude, you are not in charge. It's like, it's great that you're so passionate about your job. So she tells Clara to keep trying to get a hold of Nelson. Then the officer dude annoyingly holds up his phone. So she's like, all right, do it. Because, he wants to send the convoy back or whatever. So the convoy is sitting in a parking garage. A dude in the back gets off the phone. He tells them, go back to the safe house. The detective dude, who we saw go to the bomb maker's house and all that stuff like that, he's like, what's going on? And the first guy says that they're being stood down, the handovers off, and they're talking in English for some reason, and maybe it's for the detective. And Bailey Brown's like, what are you talking about, handover? And then the dude in the back says that they have orders to get him back to the safe house immediately. But the detective, he's like, anyone could have seen us leave there. It's compromised. And the dude's like, he's like, well, I don't make the orders. And the detective dude, he says, well, just sit tight for a second. Then we see Zara. She's talking to Daniel. They're on the other side of the interrogation room. Stewart's still sitting in there. She says the others lost contact with the train. German police suspect that there's an explosion. Stewart's just sitting there alone in the room. Zara says that others are scrambling, but MI5 is saying that Bailey Brown is being returned to custody. Daniel says that clearly they think that it's over, and she tells Daniel, she's like, well, you tried. And he goes back in the interrogation room, and Stewart's like, are we done? He's like, crisis averted. And Daniel's like, no. It's like, not so much. And he's like, there's reports of an explosion in Berlin. And then he says that, they'll get Stewart back to whatever his place, his jail cell or something like that. And he's like, looks like your mate John will be joining you there in a couple of weeks. And then Stewart's kind of like silent. Daniel leaves. And then Stewart's like, ugh, and he like kind of hits the table in frustration. So I don't know what that is. Does he not want to have any contact with Bailey Brown? Is he aware this is going? Because he said he was, he's ready to die, for the cause or whatever. So maybe he figures that that Bailey Brown's not going to be happy because he failed his job. So whatever. So aftermath of the explosion, Sam's lying on the floor, and it's like, wait, is he dead? Because he's just lying there for a bit, and then finally he starts to move. There's like broken glass on him. The doctor lady's like in front of him, looking back. So they see there's like a little fire in a train car or whatever. And then it seems like, Sam's throat hurts. He's like trying to walk forward. He's stumbling a little bit, whatever. Otto's talking. And we see like a lot of the kids because, they're like, they gotta be freaking out, but they're luckily being very calm. Everyone's being calm. There's a friggin' explosion right behind them. So he's like, passengers, please stay calm. We believe the explosion of the rear carriage was a warning. There are bombs under every carriage, but if you stay where you are and don't try anything stupid, we will get through this. And then Sam's, he said, so now I don't know if we realize it, but the doctor lady, or whatever, she's not a doctor, her name is Jess. So I missed when Sam found out. He's like, for the last time, Jess. He's like, the game's over, all right? He's like, plans have changed. You need to tell me what you know. And Otto's like angry, and because they're sitting up in the driver's room, and she doesn't say anything. Otto's like, just say something. And Sam is like, he's still in pain. Like I think he pulls like a little piece of glass out of the back of his head. I don't know if it was like embedded or anything, or just sitting there. And a little calmer, he's like, all right, Jess, I can't do this by myself. I need you to talk to me. Are we still in danger? And quietly, she's like, I don't know. He's like, no, I don't believe you. And she's like, that wasn't part of the plan. He's like, well then, call someone that's in charge. He's like, that man, the guy I met, I don't know his name. That's who recruited you? So this is things like, do we know who recruited him? We don't. And he's like, you're working with him, right? You must be able to get him on the phone. And she's like, no contact. He's like, Jess, the whole train was supposed to blow up, but it hasn't. Not yet. You need to talk to him. Let him know that you're still in control. So she makes a call. It's like ringing. And then we see someone pulls the phone out of their pocket. The screen says driver. So it must be like the phone that Otto is using or whatever. Then we see who's answering the phone. It's friggin' detective dude. So detective dude is in on this? Like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Because one, he goes to the bomb maker's place. Does he know where that's at? Because he hooked them up with Sam or whatever. But the thing is, he goes to the bar and he asks, if whatever they were there questioning, and then the guy that he said that Sam was there talking to someone, a British guy, but it was him. Am I missing something? Is it someone else? I'm kind of confused here. So he answers his phone. He's like, tell me something good. And she's like, well, I'm alive for a start. And he's like, oh, it's you. She's like, you've lost control of the situation. And she's like, I haven't lost control of anything. There was a problem and we've dealt with it. And he's like, well, it doesn't look like it. The convoy is being sent back. And she's like, so what's next? And then it's just like quiet. And she looks at the detonator and like switches to arm. She's like, no. She's like, don't do this. We can still fix this. Listen to me. We can fix it. And he's like, tell me how you're going to fix this. How? And she's like, I just need a little more time. Just give me. And he's like, the people we work for do not tolerate failure. You knew the risks. This can't lead back to them. And he's like, he looks at the arm detonator or whatever in his hand. And Sam calls on the phone. He's like, hey, it's you, isn't it? It's like, we met yesterday. So Jess hands the phone over to Sam. Detective duty like hesitates. He's like, what do you want? He's like, I want the same as you, all right? When we met yesterday in the foxhole, we had a fudging deal. I've kept my side of it. The control room, they've given in to every single one of my demands. Your demands. And the detective's like, no, not anymore. They're sending Bailey Brown back to the safe house. As far as they're concerned, this is all over. And Sam's like, look, here's what we'll do. I can get them to turn the convoy around, all right? We can fix this. So the detective, he's like, sits and thinks about it. He's like, you've got 5 minutes or I will blow that train. And there's going to be nothing you can do to stop it. And he's like, what about? And he like kind of turns to the side. He's like, what about the other deal? What about Marcia? And the detective's like I said last night, Marcia will be safe as long as we get what we want. And then he ends the call. So Sam asks Otto if the train will start. He gives a try slowly. It starts working. And Otto laughs. He's like, this piece of poop is working. Sam looks a little relieved. So one of the students tells the teacher she needs to get out of there. And so teacher one, he's like, try to stay calm. Remember what the driver says, they'll be out of there soon. So Sam calls, Winter. And she's like almost shocked. And she's like, Sam, what happened? And he's like, where is Bailey Brown? And she's like, first, I want answers. And he's like, where is Bailey Brown? So it's like she's trying to make demands. And he's like, It's like, I'm in control here. So she's like, on his way to the handover at the station. He's like, that's a lie. Turn him around. And then she looks at her officer. And she, not on the radio, but she asks, she's like, how could he have known? And he's like, Winter, get him to the handover or this whole train will be gone. And she's like, he'll be there. And Sam's like, he better be. So Winter says to pull the first responders from the station and get the convoy on the road again. The other dude, he almost looks like he's disappointed. The officer dude, it's like, what is his problem? So then the guy on the phone in the convoy car, he gets a call. They honk because the detective dude's like, he's standing outside like a little way so he can talk on the phone. They're like, let's go. The phone in the driver's car rings. Jess answers. The detective dude's like, he's good. And she's like, so you're on the move? And he's like, yes, good work. We're close to finishing this. And she's like, yeah. And he's like, no more fudge ups and you'll get your money. And she's like, right. He's like, just get them to the train platform and we'll be there. And they head out. Officer dude, he says, he's like, the man's a liar and a murderer, Ada. He's like, this is out of control. Oh, it's Ada Winter. She's like, he knows what the convoy is doing, and we don't know where the train is. I had no choice but to let him think that we'll give him what he wants. And he's like, but? And she's like, we intervene. On the train, Sam's like, if this works out, he gets what he wants, no one has to die. And Otto quietly says, except Freddie. So there's like silence. Then Otto turns to Jess, so why did you kill him? And Sam looks at her. He's like, yeah, what's your answer to this? So she thinks for like a second, whatever. She's like, Freddie had to die because you guys fudged up. He was trying to call a control center. I don't remember if that was the case or not. So I don't know if she's making it up. She's like, if the man I'm working for had found out, he would have blown the entire train. And he would have killed Marcia too. And Sam's like, that's how it works, isn't it? It's a closed loop. Leave no trace of who's behind this. And she's like, apart from you? He's like, yeah, apart from me. And she turns and she looks out like the door window. Sam looks up at the camera. At the countryside, Marcia, she's tending to so there's the two people, the shotgun guy, the guy with her gun. He cut his hand. She's looking at it. She's tending to the cut, and she's like, "Oh, it's quite deep." It's like, "You might need stitches. Best to go to an A&E." So I'm like, A&E? What the heck is A&E? A&E is accident and emergency in the UK. So it's like an ER, I guess. He's like, no, I'm fine. And I think I might have missed something here because she looks on a map. She says there's one about an hour away. And I think she mentioned a town or something like that. And then she's like, oh, but you're local. She's like, I don't know why I'm telling you this, whatever. There's some more talk. And Marcia's like, oh, I'll patch you up. And then the lady, she's like, where are you going? And that seems a little suspicious that she's asking. And she's like, oh, I'm going to go get the first aid kit. So she goes into the other room. And then, they're sitting there. Then the lady rushes to the binder, whatever the thing that Marcia was looking at. And she says, like, St. Francis. So I don't know if Marcia said the wrong town because they're supposed to be local. Maybe she said something that wasn't local. And they were like, oh, yeah. I don't know. I feel like I missed something like that. So then she hears a door click, and she's like, back. So they run out the front, and you hear she's like, where is she? Marcia's actually still inside. So she clicked the door to make them think that she went outside. So so she's still in the cabin. She reaches into the dude's jacket because he like took it off and he left it there. And she finds his pocket knife. Outside, the lady's like, she can't be far. So Marcia actually sneaks out. She goes like around the corner of the cabin. They return. They go back inside. And then Marcia throws like a rock over by like the chicken pen, and the chickens like cluck, and start clucking or whatever. So then they grabbed her stuff, like take everything. They grabbed her stuff inside and they head back out. So they go towards like the chickens or whatever, but then Marcia, she runs the other way. On a train, passengers are all in an uproar. Sam comes out, he's followed by Jess, and he's yelling for everyone to calm down for a minute. He's like, please. And then stupid long hair, he's like, people could have died on that carriage. And Sam's like, but nobody did. And then fuzzy hat dude, he's like, Fudgette, it's all her fault. And he goes towards her, and Sam stops him. He's like, stop. He's like, easy. She's not the enemy, okay? It's bigger than that. No one got hurt. So let's just keep it that way, all right? It's like, we all want the same thing. We just want to stay alive. And fuzzy hat's like, you have to let us off the train. He's like, it's not that simple, but here's one thing I can tell you, that the handover is going to happen, and we just have to stay calm and work with the authorities. We are going to walk away from this. I promise you all that, all right? So officer dude, he says that GSG 9, whatever, German, whatever. Something will have a team in the tunnel. They'll warn them once the train reaches like certain points. So there'll be like a marksman. Winter asks if anyone will be visible from the train, and he says that they'll kill the lights in the station and in the tunnel. In a perfect world, they'll get a clear shot at Nelson, and it's over. So they're just going to have someone snipe them. Winter's like, and in the world we live in? And then he's like, Wolf and his team will storm the train. I'm not sure who Wolf is. I was going to look that up. So then he's like, you made the right call. And she's like, tell Wolf to get his guys in position. So detective dude, he pulls up. He tells him, I don't think I'm like mistaking. There's two different detectives. That would be ridiculous if that was, because they both have beards. They're both like dark hair. Like they all look the same. All white people. What? So he pulls up to like a station or something like that. He tells an officers to book a bunch of stuff into evidence. Then he says, he's like, you have something for me? And she hands him something from the bomb maker's flat. And then he looks at some IDs. And then Olivia, she talks to some colleague dude, Graham. And she calls out to him. She's like, how did you get back here? He's like, you don't have clearance. And she's like, yes, but I know someone who does. And she motions towards Faber. He's like, oh, I'm whatever Faber from MI5. And he tells Graham that they could use his help. On the train, May and the older dude, they bring the older lady up front. The dude's like, my wife, she took a fall. And, she sits down. And he's like, you look pale. And she's like, don't make a fuss or whatever. And she's like, just sit with me. And, she is like, who would have thought a ride in the U-Bahn could be so exciting? So I'm not sure what her story is. At control, Sam calls Clara, says he needs to speak with Winter. Clara says that perhaps he can let them know when they pass this signal number, I think like 186 or something like that. And he's like, yeah, I can do that. But it's like weird because like Otto kind of like turns around and looks at him, whatever. Winter comes on and he's like, I want to be clear about a couple of things, okay? When we get into the station, first of all, if I see police anywhere at all, we will not pull into the station. And she's like, all right. And second, John Bailey Brown is the only person to be on the platform. If we can meet these two conditions, I'll let the passengers off and Bailey Brown can step onto the train. And she's like, yes. She's like, we can agree to those terms. Then Jess asks Otto, how long have they got? He says 2 more stops. It's at the end of the line. Usually they would go around it, but they'll have switched the points to now take them straight to the station. Then Sam asks like, how long until they pass the signal that Clara was talking about. He's like, whatever number, whatever it was. And Otto's like, 168. Yeah, that was at 168, not 186. 168. And he's like, but it's a strange thing. And Sam's like, what? He's like, we passed it already. I mean, we passed it before she even asked. He's like, I don't think they know where we are. Then the detective dude goes in a store, and there's like a lady putting like stocking shelves or whatever. And he's like, I heard this is the best place to get kielbasa. And without looking, she's like, who told you that? And he's like, oh, I'm bad with names, but perhaps you'd recognize his face. And then he holds up an ID. So this is what he got from the station. And she just like stares at it. Faber says, he's like, to Olivia, are you aware you have 12,697 unopened emails? She's like, I have a system. Okay, you want to talk about that? Right now on my phone, I have 185,569 unopened emails. I just need it. I get so many. I got to delete stuff, whatever. So she says she has a system, and Graham, the dude, he's like, okay, this is the email in which Nelson sent Thatcher his dossier of evidence. So Faber, then he stands up. He looks. There's like they're projected on a big screen. He's like looking at information. He's like, hang on. He's like, this is classified information. He's like, and all of this is from the same source? The guy's like, looks like it. He's like, the metadata indicates a single point of origin. And he's like, and you definitely can't tell me who sent it? And the guy's like, well, I mean, they've hidden their tracks really well. It's impossible to say without gaining access to Nelson's computer. So that's the other thing. Who sent this to Nelson? Who's told him that like Bailey Brown was there or whatever? And then Olivia's like, wait, Sam's phone was in his hotel room and his laptop was in his briefcase. So the German police must have them. Graham, the dude, he's like, I'll make some calls. Okay. I just paused recording and I went back to compare the guy talking to the lady in the store and the dude in the convoy car. I'm like, how can the detective dude be doing it? It wasn't making any sense. And it turns out they are two different people. They are two different white bearded dudes. And one guy, now don't ask me which one. One guy's like a little older than the other, or a little. There's some little difference. But that explains, because I was so confused. How could Sam have talked to the dude in the convoy, and then at the bar? And then detective dude is talking to the owner of the bar. So it's like, oops. So should I go back and re-record? I'm not going to go back and re-record everything. But yeah, it's, okay. So now the actual detective dude, he's not with the, because then I was wondering, I was like, he went and he got like, he turned in some papers. I was like, isn't he with the convoy? How is he going to the police station separately? Oh my goodness. So detective dude, he's talking to the lady like in the back, and he's like, there's no point denying it. He's like, we found your gym membership card in his apartment. And then she's like, do I look like I go to the gym anymore? Because she's like pregnant. And he's like, still, you must realize what he's been doing. And she's like, he says it's better that I don't know for my safety. It's like, we haven't even spoken since last Friday. And he said, I won't see him for the next couple of weeks. So then the detective's like, well, where's he going? He's like, no, let me guess. He didn't tell you. Then he gets on the phone. He says, to get all the passenger manifests for flights leaving Berlin after 0900 today. He's like starting with destinations like Eastern Europe. And he's like, yes, I'll hold. And then to the lady, he's like, I need Marco's name, his real name, or it'll be a lot more than a few weeks until you see him again. So meanwhile, the convoy with the other bearded dude, I don't even know what I'm going to call him now. They've reached the street level at a station where they're supposed to go. They take John Bailey Brown down the stairs. In the interrogation room, Stewart is still pacing. He's not pacing. He's very agitated, and he like tries looking in the mirror or whatever. Zara's like on the other side just watching him, but he can't see her. Daniel walks into this back room, and he tells her that the transport will be there in 20 minutes. And she's like, not soon enough for somebody. And he's like, good riddance. And she's like, in over 100 hours of interviews, I've never seen him like this. So why is Stewart so worked up? Is it because, did he fail? Is this plan not working out? Is he going to get more trouble? Or is it if John Bailey Brown gets brought in and then they end up in the same jail, that's bad for Stewart? I don't know. The detective dude, he walks out of that shop. He's on the phone. He said that the bomb maker's name is Joseph something, so it's with a Z. So they got a match. And then he's like, when did the flight leave for Warsaw? And it turns out it hasn't left. He's like, when is it leaving? He looks at his watch, so I guess he's going to try to make it to the airport to catch this guy. At the station, John Bailey Brown asks, he's like, what is this place? Because it's like, it's a deserted train station. So they're bringing him down. And then they give him like a bulletproof vest. And he's like, isn't that a little over the top? And he's like, why do I need this? So like, where do you walk me into? And then one guy turns the lights on up down there. It's like, I thought they wanted the lights off so that they would have more, the advantage. And then other beard dude, he sends a text to the train. So Jess is like, apparently the station is crawling with GS9. So Sam thinks about it. Then he gets on the radio, Winter. And he's like, yeah, I've changed my mind. And she's like, what is it? He's like, passengers will not get off this train until I have Bailey Brown. And then Jess whispers something like, what the fudge are you doing? And then Winter's like, okay. And then to Jess and Otto, he's like, I thought so. And to Otto, he's like, stop the train. And Jess is like, Sam. And he's like, no. He's like, just stop the train. Stop it. So the train stops. Passengers, oh my gosh, I was like ready to turn off the episode. They're wondering what's going on. The older lady, she's not looking great. And she says to the guy, she's like, you'll be with your loved ones very soon, whatever. But it's like she got knocked over when people were running from the bomb in the back. Did she have a heart? I don't know what would happen to her. Just, yeah. So Jess is like, do you think she's planning on assaulting the train? And Sam's like, she just agreed to terms that no one in their right mind would unless she were planning on luring us in. She's got the police laying in wait for us. So Jess is like, well, what's the alternative? Like, we don't pull into the station, he will blow the train. And Sam's like, he will definitely blow this train if there is an ambush, and if John Bailey Brown isn't handed to us. But then Otto's like, but the station is a dead end. If there's an ambush and we pull in there, we won't get out. There's no escape. So Sam thinks about it. He's like, wait, did you say that the control room can't see where we are? And Otto's like, it seems so. He's like, I think the explosion could have damaged the electronics. And Jess is like, they'll be blind. And Otto's like, yeah. So Sam's like, so if we can sidestep their trap, we've got a chance. Marcia, at the countryside, she's walking through the trees. She stops behind one, like, catch her breath. Then, so I thought she took the dude's knife, but it turns out she didn't. She took the keys to the dead guy's SUV. So she hits it, beep, beep. And she, like, looks around, and she hits it again. It's like, okay, if they're close by, they're going to hear this. So she hits it twice. She moves. She hits it a third time. And then she finally reaches it. She looks inside, and she pops the trunk, and she gasps because she sees the body in there. And then she sees the two, like, running up, so she has to leave the trunk open. So the lady gets her. They didn't see her, but the lady curses, and she's like, this is getting away from us. And the dude says, like, it might be time to turn it up a notch. Sam says to Otto, he's like, so however this turns out, he's like, we won't be able to get back to you. So as soon as I say, you come pick us up at the points, and we divert past the station. And I was like, okay, I'll be there. And then he hands Sam a flashlight, I think. So the police get ready around the station. Several go down on the tracks and are moving forward. And I guess they're going to go in and hide. Otto asks, he's like, what about the passengers? He's like, I don't know, ask any stupid questions. And Sam's like, they won't even know we're gone, all right? Just keep them calm. So Sam and Jess leave. At control, Winter looks at her watch and says that the train should be there by now. And she tells Claire to call Sam. So she calls, but it's just Otto there. And he's like, oh, man. And she's like, Sam. And then he answers, he's like, yeah. She's like, John Bailey Brown is on the platform. We're ready for the handover. He's like, Clara, stand by. And he tells Jess that the station must be like up 300 meters. And so he's like, the points must be closed. And then Clara's like, Sam, where are you? He's like, just passing signal 168, which they already passed that. So the assault guy, I think his name is Wolf. He's down on the tracks. He's told that the train is approaching them. So it's like, do they have visual? And he's like, negative. So then he stops his men. He's like, going dark. So I think they're going to put night vision on. Sam says they'll be expecting him at the station any minute now. So he opens like this. There's like this toolkit thing like on a wall, and he grabs a crank cane handle, and he starts like turning the tracks. So he's changing the tracks now. Otto's waiting, and then oh my goodness, there's a knock at the driver's door. It is freaking May. It's like, oh. And she's like, Sam. And she's like knocking. So Otto's like, what is it? And she's like, it's the old lady. She's like, I'm not sure what's wrong, but she needs medical attention. So then what does Otto do? He opens the door. He's like, I know first aid. So he walks back. And then, oh my God, stupid long hair. He's like, why have we stopped? And Otto walks past him. He's like, huh? He's like, what's going on? And I'm like, shut up. Oh, stupid long hair. Meanwhile, baby Benji, the baby that got off the train, his mom, she gets out of the elevator. She's at she's actually at control, at whatever. She's another part. And she talks to someone. She says she needs to speak to whoever's in charge, please. Winter's officer dude, he snaps. He's like, it can't be long now. And she's like, they're still down there. We still don't know where they are. Wolf is asked if he has visual on the train. He's like, negative. So they tell him to move up, but be careful. Otto reaches a lady. He asks what happened. Someone said that she fell. Benji's mom, she's trying to get someone to listen. She says her husband's on a train. Yes, she knows the baby's not. Winter hears this from the other room. And then the lady's like, that's what I'm trying to explain. I went down there and the hijacker gave me this. And she hands over the USB stick and Winter gets her. She's like, gave you what? So Otto checks the lady's pulse. But it's like, did he do anything? Because he stands up. He's like, sorry, there's nothing I can do. And her husband's like, what? And he starts crying. So it's like, is she dead now? Did Otto feel and it's like, oh, she has no pulse. I can't do, there's nothing I can do. But it's like, what the heck happened to her? And the other passengers are kind of shocked. And then Otto starts walking back up towards the front. Sam, meanwhile, he's still cranking the track switch. It's such a slow process. But he's like, all right, Otto, it's done. Otto, come in. Otto, come in. He's like, come on, we're ready for you. But there's no one in the driver's car now. One of the assault guys, he says that he sees something. Otto moves forward, and then long hair guy, he's on his ass. He's right. He's practically piggyback on Otto. He's like, they said that they keep us safe. He's like, now someone else is dead. It was well, maybe if they didn't all panic and shove her over, she'd still be alive. Otto's like, I will tell them. And Longhair is like, you seem to be keen to do whatever they want. And he grabs his shoulder, and Otto snaps. He spins around, and he's like, what do you want from me? He's like, I'm just trying to stay alive, like all of you. It's like, oh my gosh. At control, they plug in the USB. Winter says that Nelson gave it to the mother. Mr. Deal says, he's like, oh, it's from the camera in the driver's car. So Winter's like, he must want to show us something. But what? He's like, can we speed it up? The assault guy says that there are some people in the tunnels, and someone's like, off the train? He's like, can you ID them? He's like, negative. He's like, stand by. And he's like, one of them is Tango 1, and he's with an unidentified female. So then Officer Dude tells Winter that Wolf has visual on Nelson in the tunnel. And she's like, what? Nelson's in the tunnel? Sam wonders, what's Otto waiting for? Officer dude asks Wolf if he can see what they're doing, and he's like, stand by, moving closer. Otto gets the train moving. Video's still playing, and then it's just Freddie sitting there. Clara's like, is that the dead passenger? And then Jess walks in, and they're like, who's that? And she grabs Freddie, slams his head against the control a few times. Deal tells Winters, like, you need to see this. And then she's like strangling him. The officer dude's like, Nelson has an accomplice. Winter says, says a pause right there. She asks, if that's the woman in the tunnel. And the dude radios Wolf. He's like, the female may be hostile. It's like, we need a full description. So then he's like, average height, what does that mean? He's like, average height, mid-30s. It's like, hard to see, stand by. Then someone like almost trips on a rail and makes a noise. So Sam calls out, who's there? And Wolf like curses, turns on the laser targeting, like the green laser things, whatever. He's like, hands above your head, now. Dude asks on the phone, he's like, Wolf, what's going on? And then Sam grabs Jess from behind. He's like, don't, or I will fudging kill her. It's like, don't. And she yells out, Jess is like, please, don't shoot. Wolf's like, he's using her as a human shield. He's taking her as hostage. So Sam calls like, Otto, bring that fudging train. Bring that train now. They say to Wolf that they need a clear ID. He's like, ponytail, parka jacket. And Officer Dude tells Winter, it's her, the woman Nelson's holding hostage. That's her. And Wolf says that he needs a decision now. So the train's like almost there. And stupid Winter is like, if he has the shot, take it. Claire's like, but Sam is. And she's like, take the shot. So Winter just cuts her off. Officer Dude's like, permission granted. And it's like this officer dude, I don't know what his problem is, but he's like so keen to get things done. So the train is just about there. We see Wolf. That's the end of the episode. I don't know if there was a shot. There's some noise, but with the train coming and yeah, so they might have just shot Sam. Maybe. So that is episode 6. And things are just, I don't know what they plan on doing. It's like, so they switch the tracks. I don't know, Otto's on their way there. Are they going to go walk up to the tracks and get Bailey? I don't understand, like what, but of course, they don't tell us because they keep us in suspense. So that was episode 6. There are 2 more episodes to go. All right, 56 days, second episode, chapter 2. So as I mentioned last week, all the episodes are out. This is a show on Prime. It's Dove Cameron and Avon, I forgot his name. And the thing is, we don't know what's going on. The 2 characters, Ciara and Oliver, they both have secrets. There's stuff going on. We don't know what, but while in the beginning it looked like Oliver was up to something, now we see clearly that Ciara is trying to play him as well. It's like she needs money for her mom and that. But the big question is, someone's been murdered, 56 days after they meet. We don't know who it is. It kind of looks like it could be a girl. Could it be Ciara, Dove Cameron's character, or like what's going on? And if whoever is murdered, we're not seeing any of them like in the today part, so did they go on a run? Whoever, if it's Oliver or if it's Ciara, whoever survived, why would they just take off? So I don't know. All right, so it starts off, we see Ciara, she's wearing a long green jacket. I think there was a green jacket in the apartment, and she's clearly, her stuff is there. But this is back to like day 1. She enters the grocery store. So this is what we saw replay at the end of the first episode. She like lowers the jacket to her shoulders. I always wonder why people do that, like why women or girls or whatever do that, like show off it's your shoulder or whatever. But maybe there's something about it. I don't know. She's at the salad bar. She's holding up like a piece of cucumber, like looking, there's a glass between her and that, whatever. But you can see she's like looking at Oliver in a reflection, and he's kind of like watching her, whatever. So they're like watching each other, but he doesn't realize that she's watching him. Then she's at like a cooler thing, getting her drink out of there. She acts like she's looking at the ingredients or whatever, like it's like smart water or something like that. but she's like really looking at Oliver again, like in reflection. Then it cuts to him mentioning the place that has really great cocktails, after they're outside. Then we see her type the space shuttle names when she adds her contact in his phones. And then she's typing really fast. Then she walks away with a smile, when he's like, oh, funny, whatever. And her smile slowly kind of like dissolves or whatever. So she's totally playing him. And this is kind of crazy because when you watch for the first time, you don't realize that. So then we see Oliver, he's sitting at his workstation. He decides to Google Ciara Wise, and then he can't find anything, so he adds Boston in there. There's pictures like other people. He sees a Facebook entry for Wise, and it's Wise with a W Y S. Did I say Y? WYSE. So he sees this article for Wise Finance, and he reads, "Glad to have Ciara as my accountant. We met through Dolly at work." And then so this is where you can like read. He didn't click on it, but he can read like the first couple lines, and it says like it's missing Boston. So there is apparently another Ciara, and Ciara again, it's spelled Ciara, and then Wise with a Y. So it doesn't seem like it'd be like an overly common name. But yeah, so and she's an accountant. She didn't mention anything about that. So he scrolls down, then he sees Ciara Wise profile on LinkedIn, and it does say Boston, and it lists like cloud support specialist at Ellagram Media or something like that. And so he clicks on it. She has 0 followers, 0 connections, and there's like no like user image in a profile. Then so it's like. So if she created this, it's like, wouldn't she be a little more, I don't know, a little more meticulous or something like that? So a coworker, this guy Elliot, he like drops a hacky sack on the desk. He's like, "Your dad and I had those made for Spring Fling when we were co-presidents of SAE, whatever that is." Oliver's like, "Wow." He's like, "That sounds like fun." And Elliot's like, "That's one word for it." He's like, at the memorial, when we wrote down our memories of him and sent them up in the lanterns, mine was about the 20-foot bong he built up the side of the staircase. Oliver like laughs. He's like, and it wasn't just PVC. He had to have borosilicate glass. And Oliver's like, I mean, only the best for him, right? And Elliot's like, yeah. He ever teach you about the hacky sack? He's like, no. He's like, come on, let's try it. He's like, okay, just pop it off your knee, pop it off the inside of your foot. He's like, perfect, love it. And then Oliver's like, what? Whoa. And then they keep going. They're sort of doing hacky sack in the middle of the office while everyone's working. Then it cuts to today in the apartment. They're pulling things out of the tub, and it's like, is that a long glob of? It could be blonde hair, but it's. I mean, if there's chemicals in there, because Dove Cameron doesn't have blonde hair, but then again, Oliver has long hair too. He has long locks, and it looks blonde. But if there's like some sort of chemical in there, maybe it like bleached it all. I don't know. So Carl's like, I talked to the ME. She said that she's going to prioritize the autopsy. And Lee, his partner, she's like, good luck with that. It's like the body is in 100 pieces. And then he's like, what is that? Bleach, oven cleaner? And she's like, both. She's like, go look for the ID. It's not in here. So he goes in the other room. He asks a couple of officers in scrubs see if they found a wallet, credit card, anything with name on it. And they're like, no, but he's like, look what was by the bed. So the lady pulls out a tray with some stuff. Carl picks up a little bottle of something. He's like, what do you think that is? TNT, Liquid H, Murder One, Dance Fever. And he's like, look at that. Lot number still on it. Got to be better than you're running the tox. Lee goes in the other bedroom. And so at this point, it's like, wait, did Ciara move in? There's this like white plastic 4-drawer thing that doesn't really go with the apartment. I just know this because like when my daughter like first moved out and before she moved back, she had like this like plastic drawer thing. So it's like just a easy, convenient. You put your cosmetics or whatever stuff in there, and there's some woman's clothes in a closet. So Carl comes in with his phone. He's like, we got a hashtag. He's like, crime at the crossings. So Lee's like, keep an eye on the comments, see if anyone knows who lived here. And he's like, yeah. And then she's like, a woman who wears a size 7.5 shoe. And he's like, well, it might be helpful if the body had feet. Then he looks in the closet. He's like, I don't know. Something about stuff here, it feels like it doesn't belong. She's like, it's cheap, temporary, maybe a sublet. He's like, nah. He's like, the guy in the main bedroom doesn't look like he needs the money. He finds a piece of paper that could be like her handwriting. He's like, beef with brock, shrimp wontons. He's like, don't even know what that is. Chicken fried rice. You think it's for 1 or 2 people? Lee's like, 2 unless it's you. She's like, she kept this tickets to the movie. It's like a couple months ago. Must have been a date. Carl's like, no one goes on dates to the movies anymore unless it's playing on your sofa, and then you only really watch the first half. Lee's like, yeah, well, she likes the movies. She kept a fortune from cookies too. It seems she seems innocent, naive. It's like, oh, I wonder who she is. So then Carl's like, well, she was a white girl. Saw some makeup on a counter. He's like, what do you think, Katie? And she's like, Olivia. It's like, I'm thinking early 20s, lower middle class background, hooking up with her rich roommate, and thought fudging him was magic because she posted there's like a poster like sign that's whatever, and she's like, God, that's sad. And then Carl's like, unless it's not. Then it goes to day 9. Ciara's lying on her bed in her apartment, and we can see it's the same kind of like purple throw blanket. There's the magic sign. There's the plastic shelf thing, whatever. So she's looking at the photos on her phone of that lady Jane who came up to her and she asked, how does she know Oliver? She's like, he's not who you think he is. Then she looks at a photo of like the closet safe, and then she decides to take some selfies, while she's laying there. Actually, she creates this thing, trying to get like the shadows. She has like these fake blinds or whatever, and she's doing these different angles or whatever. And then she gets her call. Her sister like leaves her a voicemail. She's like, hey, Megan, it's me. And it's like, wait, who's Megan? So I guess Ciara, her real name must be Megan, right? She's like, Mom developed an old disposable camera and has now gone down a rabbit hole. So give her a call, all right, Megan? And we see her, like, Mom is like near tears, like looking at photos. And it looks like they had a middle brother who must have died or something. So Oliver, he gets one of Ciara's pictures along with, you want to go to lunch? And he replies, like flame emoji, thumbs up emoji. And then she arrives at the place and she's seated. He's not there. But then she like leans forward and puts like her cheek on a table. It's like, what are you doing? He comes up. He's like, you okay? And it like startles her. She's like, yeah, I think I just need a nap. So he gives her a smooch. And she's like, so is this a normal lunch for you, or are you trying to impress me? He's like, no, God knows. Like, no, we're slumming it. And she laughs. He's like, I like that dress on you. She's like, thank you. I think it's from the 90s. Got it at a swap meet. She's like, is that weird? And he's like, no. It makes me think about what it's been up to this whole time. And she says that, she's like, well, I didn't ask for its resume when I bought it. And he's like, 1993. She's like, He's like, it went to a Nirvana concert in Detroit. 96, it went to Vegas, got married. And, she must be bored with like the make-believe conversation. She like takes off her shoe, puts her foot between his legs. And it's like, okay, there's no like tablecloth. These are, I don't know if they're glass tables, whatever. They're kind of high up and you can like see everything that's going on. And, they're not like tucked in a corner or anything like that. Then he's like, got busted with 10 kilos of cocaine. And she's like, And then he's like, 1999. And she's like, and then what happened? And he's like, I have no fudging idea. It's like, what the heck, dude? The waitress comes up, asks her to ready, and Sarah's like, yep. And he's like, very. Then he like kind of smiles and chuckles at her. And it's like, wait, what? He does these like weird expressions sometimes, whatever. So they eat. Then he asks for the check. He pays with cash. Sarah's asked, she's like, can I ask what's up with the cash? She's like, because I've never seen you use a credit card. He's like, it's a mistrust of the financial industrial complex. She's like, that's very Amish of you. He's like, do you know how much information that they gather from your credit card spending? They know everything about you, what you're doing, what you ate, who you're with. But it's like, who cares? Like, what does that matter? And she's like, so what do you do? Keep it under your mattress? He's like, not exactly. She's like, do you bury it in your yard? He's like, I don't have a yard. She's like, I'm really asking you, what do you do? And he does like his smile thing, his like random awkward smile or whatever. He's like, I keep all my account information in a safe place. He's like, I'm not going to be an open book to an industry that doesn't care about anything other than its own profits. But it's like everyone cares about profits. That's like the whole reason anyone does anything. And she's like, hey, I get it. I mean, I don't want, corporate overlords all up in my business either. So, and then like, here's his chance. He's like, is that why you're not on social media? And she kind of gives him like a surprised look. He's like, of course I looked. He's like, not on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, nothing. And she's like, yeah, no. I used to be on all that stuff. But then this guy in Tulsa stole my sister's identity and used it to buy a car. So I took myself off of everything after that. He's like, that's a bit of an extreme reaction to your sister's bad luck, right? And she's like, yeah, I don't know. It really didn't feel like that at the time. He's like, it's not just social media though. You're not on the internet at all. And she gives like another head look at him. She's like, huh? And she's like, I don't know. I guess my life's not very notable. And she like chuckles, and he kind of smiles and he like stares at her. So they leave. Outside, she asks if she'll see him tonight. And he's like, not if I see you first. And then he says, he's like, let me bring dinner to your place. And she's like, oh no. She's like, but your place is so much better. He's like, I don't care. I'm coming over. And she's like, okay. So they smooch, they're smooching, and then she pulls him down into this alley, into like doorway. He's like, you're gonna get me arrested. So they're like off, to the side, they're going at it right there. And then, she undoes his pants and do, whatever. And then, they walk out of the alley. She's like, I'll text you to address later, whatever. He rushes to her place, moves her fake blinds things out of the way, scoops up all the cut up IDs that were still sitting on a table, like into a suitcase. There's like bugs in a corner, whatever. She tears out a page from a book and like scoops them up, pries off the baseboard, she gets some more termites, whatever. Then at another part of the wall, she kind of like hacks at it, and she puts like termites there. Then she sets an alarm on her phone. It's like, wait, what? And she like, there's a lot of alarms set on there. Then it cuts to today in the bathroom. Carl looks around. Then he goes outside, looks for Lee. He finds her talking. It seems like she's kind of uncomfortably talking to this sort of like slick dude leaning against a car. Carl like writes on the license plate number. The dude drives away. Then he goes back inside, waits for Lee. She comes up in the elevator, and he says he's got something he wants to show her, and she's like, fine, show me. Then he's like, who is that guy down there? And she's like, witness, lives in the lofts, sells pills to all the tech bros. I thought it might be an angle, but it hit a wall. And he's like, and how do you know this guy? She's like, I don't. He's like, because it seemed like you did. She's like, no, it was a tip from one of the neighbors, apartment 33. So there's more banter inside. He says that there's like a poopy heater and corrosives. Like someone Googled how to get rid of this guy, and then he's like, the thing is this. He's like, I mean, we're supposed to think Fat Cat lives here, but this jacket's straight out of dry cleaner. This scene is staged. He's like, but why? To make it look like a cartel thing? And she's like, or to screw us on the identity of the victim, make us waste the first 2 days trying to find out who he is. And he's like, see, we got to stop calling him a he. He's a soup. He could be a she or an intersexual. He's like, I don't know if I can say that. Then the manager guy, Kevin, he's at the door like gagging, and Carl's like, do not move, do not set foot, don't touch anything, type of thing. And Lee's like, why is he here? And Carl's like, how'd you get in here? He's like, he says he walked in, and so they're walking back out. She's like, breathe through your mouth, it's easier. And he's like, I don't understand, how you do this thing for a living. And Carl's like, we want to be douchebag landlords, but we failed the test. And he's like, give me that, because there's like he has some paper with some information or whatever. And then she's like, is this our tenant? And he's like, yeah, Oliver Kennedy. So she's like, is this our tenant? And Kevin's like, yeah. And Carl looks at it, he's like, Oliver Kennedy, so very blue blood. And Kevin's like, he's month to month. And, she reads the name. She's like, Kubler Burhane. It's like the owner. Kevin keeps like gagging, and Carl tells him to call Kubler, and he tells Lee to call Kubler. He's going to run the ID. So then there's a knock on Sierra's door. So we're back in the past. He arrives with flowers and like takeouts and like wine or whatever. There's a lot of smooching at the door. They eat. Then she asks, why isn't he saying anything? And he's like, about what? She's like, about this place. She's like, I know it's a dump. She's like, my work was just starting and it was the only thing I could find on such short notice. He's like, I don't think this place is a dump. He's like, I like attic apartments. It's like if the house had a brain, this is where it would be. And Sarah's like, it'd have to be a pretty small brain, but he's like, well, in real estate terms, it's called cozy. She's like, what did the ad say? And she's like, quaint. And he's like, and she's like, close to transportation. He's like, well, better than unique. She's like, why? What's unique? He's like, haunted. And she chuckles softly. Then he's like, what was that you said about ghosts? And she's like, it's the people who are haunted, not the place. He's like, no, I think you said you can't rule anything out. And she's like, I did say that, didn't I? I was actually just thinking about how we once lived in a house that I thought was haunted. I would hear these creaks in the middle of the night and this low hum, like someone was moaning. My sister said it was all in my head, but I knew she heard it too. And then I thought that it must be these little glass animals that my mother collected, coming alive in the night and running around. So I would check in the morning to see if they moved. One time, I even put a strand of my hair over the little giraffe just so I would know. And Oliver's like, I trust it was still there in the morning. And she's like, yes, it was. I think I was actually pretty disappointed. My house was kind of lonely growing up. My sister was never really home, and my mom was pretty out of it most of the time. So I thought that they would come find me or something. And he like brushes some hair like out of her face. And on the table there's like fortune cookies, and one's like plan for many pleasures ahead. So I don't know if that's the one that she kept or whatever. Then they're lying on the floor, and he's like on top of her, and she tells him, hang on, she has to pee. So she's like, read a book. And because there's one that she placed like right by the sofa, like I might have been like a space astronaut thing or something, whatever. So he looks at it, or he says that he's like, I read that book. Then he looks around, different things, and he sees her tote bag, like her purse tote bag thing. So he hears water running, so he goes back to the sofa because he was like about to pull something out. Then he points to termites, and he's like, oh, I met your friends. And she's like, oh yeah, they like to watch. And then she like unbuttons her top and then cuts to the next scene. We see this other couple, Allison Meadows and Elliot Burhane. So Elliot is Oliver's boss, so he's like must be one of the owners of the company or something like that. She says, they're in the middle of a conversation, and so this is, I think there's some important stuff here, but we're not really sure what's going on, because she's like, don't forget who he is. And Elliot's like, too late now. It's like, I don't know what you want me to do. And she's like, you could fire him. And he's like, oh, he's good at his job. He's like, I'm not going to fire him. And I owe it to his father for investing in the firm when no other VC would touch it. And she's like, you do not owe him anything. And that family, it can't make you complicit in their cover-up. And he's like, cover-up? He's like, no, it's not Oliver Gate. And she like shrugs. And she's like, what's he been doing the last few years anyways? It's like, we haven't seen him. And Ellie's like, he was in Oakland working in a big firm. And she's like, I thought he was in New York. And Elliot's like, he was before. It's like, why does it matter? And she's like, because he moves around every time the past catches up with him. He's erratic, unstable. And Elliot's like, well, not all those who wander are lost. And she's like, this isn't fair to us or to your colleagues. And he's like, just stay out of it, okay? So there's something going on, and she doesn't really like Elliot or the fact that he's working there. So then it's day 10. Sierra asks Oliver at her place what his day is like. I think this might be the next day. I don't know. Or maybe it's the same. It must be the next day. He says that he has some homework to do on a new fiber optic retrofit for the library, and she's making coffee. And then the alarm that she set for 8:32 goes off. So she goes, her phone's like right there, and she acts like it's a phone call. And she's like, hello, this is Miss Wise. And she's like, oh no, I've noticed. Well, I assume that you're going to put me up somewhere. Okay, well, that's not going to work. So I signed this lease less than 2 months ago, and no one said anything about this. It's like, can I speak to the owner of the building? Yeah. Please, have her call me. Thank you. And so Oliver's been listening, obviously, whatever, she puts on this act. He's like, what was that? And she's like, I have to leave for 3 weeks for some massive extermination. He's like, are they tenting? She's like, no, it's more than that. They have to repair the truss. What is a truss? He's like, it's the timber that holds the roof up. And she's like, oh. And it's like silent for a bit. And he's like, you can say with me. And she like laughs. She's like, no, I can't. He's like, yeah, you can stay with me. She's like, I got a whole other room just sitting there empty. And she like laughs again. She's like, no, that's incredibly generous of you, but I don't think I could ask you to do that. It's like, it's not the end of the world. It's like, I'm going to be able to figure something out. It's okay. He's like, Ciara, I want you to. Come on, it'll be fun. We can pretend that we're an old married couple. It's like, I can yell at you for leaving dirty dishes in the sink, and you can tell me that you're going to the bar with the girls. And she's like, stop. He's like, yeah, sounds fun. It's only 3 weeks. I mean, by the time you hate me, it'll be over. And she's like, I'm not going to hate you. He's like, then we're good. He kisses her and then picks her up. It's like, no. He's like, we have a problem because you can't see me in my real underwear. You can only see my date underwear. He's like, the real problem is you can't bring underwear. I don't have room. And she's like, okay, well then. And then more smooching. And then he's like, am I at a new Tyler Murkow? So that's the guy that she had a crush on when she was at a school trip to the space place. And he's like, am I the new Tyler Murkow, falling for you too fast? And she's like, oh yes, you are. And I'm going to get you. He's like, not if I get you first. Smooch, and then he leaves. At his apartment, he gets his mail, throwing out some junk mail right there, and he stops and he looks at an envelope. And at the same time, Ciara's like Googling St. Ledger Ventures. So the envelope that Oliver's looking at says Oliver St. Ledger. And he like kind of looks around, he's concerned. Ciara's computer says DOJ, there's an article, DOJ approves St. Ledger Ventures merger, solidifying 16 billion valuation. 16 billion? He opens the envelope like abruptly and like inside, and it's like empty. He kind of like almost like tears it apart. Pretty sure it was empty. And he like slams the cabinet, and he like lightly punches it a couple times. He doesn't punch it that hard, whatever. And he's like just like sits on the floor. At the police station today, Carl sits at his computer in his office. He looks up Oliver from his driver's license records. Then he takes he has this huge bag of like gummy bears, and he uses a Ziploc bag. He like reaches like inside out, grabs like a handful, and then like closes it, which is kind of interesting way that he does that. In the hall, he's at a copy machine, and then Camille Russo, it must be his boss, she walks by. She's like, you got a minute, or are you late for a date? So in her office, and she's like, so how'd this Hannah get her hands on your gun? So that's from his date that she like posted a video, like a TikTok with it, whatever. And she's like, how'd she get her hands on your gun? And believe me, I don't want to know. It's my job to ask. He's like, it was on my dresser. He's like, I know. It was, I was a careless, fudging, stupid, drunk idiot. She's like, I deserve everything I get. And she's like, make you a deal. I make it go away. Next time, swipe right. He's like, you mean left? She's like, whatever. Just go to bar. It's like, I met my wife at JJ's, and not once in 22 years has she stolen my weapon. He like sighs. He's like, look, I can't do this anymore. And she's like, being do with strangers. And he's like, no, this job, the constant interaction all day, every day, till a million faces just blur together to become one big deviant sack of poop. And she's like, meaning what? You gonna quit? And she's like, did I quit when that Southie punk stabbed me in the boob? Resignation unaccepted. He like sighs. And she's like, media relations needs your face in that brochure. It's like, what's Lise? And he's like, you know her. She acts like nothing ever even gets to her. And she's like, He's like, I got to head down to Seaport. And she's like, what's going on there? Body in the bathtub. Matter of fact, do you think you could run this license plate number? This guy hangs out down there. Vice has a flag on him, so I'm locked out. And she's like, will do. And she's like, dead in the tub? You sure it's not an OD? He's like, no, it's ours. They dissolved the body intentionally. And she's like an old school mob thing? He's like, don't know, but this guy ain't who he says he is, looking at Oliver's driver's history. Cut back to day 10. Oliver's like, he's talking on his laptop to that guy, Dan. So he's like, are you in a private space? He's like, yeah. And I'm aware that anything that I say that suggests that I may hurt myself and or someone else cannot be kept confidential. So Dan's like, before we get started, you left me a pretty intense message the other night. And he's like, yeah. He's like, I know, I'm sorry. And Dan's like, I called you back, but you didn't answer and didn't return. He's like, I was at work. And Dan's like, Oliver, if you leave me a distress call after hours, it's important we touch base the next day. He's like, someone left me in, he's like not even addressing that. He's just cutting to what's happening now. He's like, someone left me an envelope with my name on it. And then he does like that awkward smile thing. He's like, I guess they were just testing to see if I'm Oliver St. Ledger. And the guy's like, interesting. He's like, who do you think might have done that? But it's like, what does that mean? He's like, I have no fudging idea, Dan. That's why I'm freaking out. And he's like, scoffs. He's like, I should have thrown it away. I should have. And then Dan's like, let's think that through. Who knows you're living in Boston now? And he's like, you, the family, Elliot, Burhane. And he's like, you haven't told anyone else? He's like, no. Any new friends? And he's like, yes, okay. I was meaning to tell you this. I met someone. I know it's too soon, but she's nice and smart and funny. And he's like, where'd you meet? He's like, grocery store near my office. I saw her there a couple of times. We were talking. Her name's Ciara, and it's fine, okay? Don't worry. I haven't told her anything. And Dan's like, what do you mean by that? He's like, I mean, I haven't told her anything about myself that isn't surface level. I'm new to city. I'm working at an architecture firm. I'm an insomniac. He's like, oh, so you're sleeping together? He's like, yeah, we're adults. So Dan's like, okay, so your plan is to engage in physically intimate relationship while keeping your emotional connection entirely superficial. So he does a like smile and like laugh thing. He's like, people do it all the time. And Dan's like, yeah, maybe, but we're talking about you. I know how lonely you are, but don't you think it's more important to protect yourself? If the answer is yes, you need to get rid of that letter and break it off now before you do something you'll regret. Then later we see him like burning the envelope like in the sink. And then he calls Ciara. You want to start bringing your stuff over tonight? So it's like, he's so much for listening to this guy. Then we at mom's place, whatever, Ciara's sister's in the kitchen. Ciara calls her and her sister just answers. She's like, where the hell have you been? And Ciara's like, I'm so sorry. I've been totally slammed. I tried calling mom, but she's not picking up. And she's like, yeah, hold on. She goes in the other room. She's like drinking a beer or whatever. She's like, hey, mom, talk to Megan. And she's like, oh, hey, baby. And Sarah's like, hi, mom, or Megan. She's like, hi, mom, how's it going? And she's like, oh, typical poop. Did your sister tell you? The house you grew up in belongs to the bank. It's official. And Sarah's like, you got the notice? She's like, in the mail. Next week, it goes in the fudging newspaper. And Sarah's like, okay, well, mom, listen, I mean, you still have time, right? We have 30 days to respond. And she's like, and tell them what? I don't have the money, and I can barely keep my phone on, much less pay 120 days back due. Plus, the gas company doubled rates across the whole county. You know, if your father paid half of what he owed when he left, we would not be in this position. We would not have to sell. And Sarah's like, hey, I really can't talk about dad right now, okay? Listen, how much do you need for the house? So her mom chuckles, $42 million. And Sarah's like, okay, I'm being serious. She's like, what do you need? Like $5,000? She's like, something like that. I lost track. So she's like, okay, well, tell the bank that you're going to have that this month. And her mom's like, but I won't. So why tell them that? And Sarah's like, yes, you will. I will. I mean, I think I might even be able to send you 10 by then. And she's like, where are you going to get that kind of money? And Sarah's like, I just said work's going really good. And her mom's like, not 10 grand good for data entry? And she's like, yeah, it's a big tech company, lots of hours. And there's like silence. And she's like, are you still there? Her mom's like, yeah. And she's like, I just don't know what you're up to, but it sounds like trouble. And Sarah's like, don't you trust me? And she like laughs. She's like, hell no. It's like, I never have. You remember when you saw like guinea pig from church and I found it in your dresser drawer? That's when I knew I have a little freak on my hands. And then Sarah's like, people owe us for what they put us through, and I'm making them pay, okay? And that's really all you need to know right now. And her mom's like, who? Who are you talking about? And she's like, Mom, I got to go because my bus is here. But keep this conversation between us, okay? I really mean it. And she's like, hey, I don't like this. Megan Ann. And she's like, yeah, well, you will when the bills are paid. Stop packing and call the bank. She's like, I love you. And she's like, I love you too. So then today, Lee's sitting outside the architecture office, and Elliot like walks up to her, and she's like, Elliot, whatever. And he's like, you're the detective? And she's like, Lee Reardon. She's like, I'm really sorry to hear about your wife's accident. So like, wait a minute. When did that happen? Because was that woman he was talking to, was that his wife? And then how many days ago was that? That wasn't that long ago. Or maybe it was. Actually, I don't think they told us when that was. It just cut. So it still could be at day 10. He's like, it still seems so unreal. So Lee's like, I'm sorry, it's not a better time. I need to ask you about Oliver Kennedy. He lived in your company's apartment. He worked for you. And he's like, yeah, I haven't been in the office for a couple of weeks. Did something happen to him? And she's like, not necessarily. A body was found in the apartment. And he's like, company apartment? She's like, apartment 11. That's all I can say right now. Can you think of anyone who would want to hurt Oliver? He's like, of course not. He's a good guy. And she's like, tell me, what did you know about him? When did you hire him? He's like, a couple of months ago, we need a new technologist, and he was good. And she's like, when did you last see him? And he's like, when I ran into him at the park on the pier a couple Saturdays ago. We said hi. That's it. She's like, and then you just stopped coming to work? He's like, I guess so. So Lee's like, who lived here with him? And he's like, no one that I know of. I mean, I got my mind on other things. And she's like, okay, what if I told you that I just got the results back from a bottle of medication we found in an apartment? It's a sedative called propofol. It was stolen from a hospital. It may have been used in this crime, and if the victim isn't Oliver, then Oliver may still be out there somewhere, alive and in trouble. I need your help. So does he. He sighs. He's like, okay, I didn't run into him at the park. He asked me to meet him. He had something he needed to say. And then Carl walks up, and Lee introduces, this is Elliot, Oliver's boss. And she's like, Mr. Burhane was telling me about the last time they saw each other. And then he's like, Elliot's like, that's all I know. And Lee's like, no, you were in the middle of saying Oliver called you to meet. And then Elliot's like, that's not what I meant. And she's like, it's what you said. And then Carl's like, you do know that Oliver Kennedy isn't his real name, right? I mean, it's on his ID, but the person never even existed till December last year. And Ellie's like, I don't know where you're getting this information. And he has the piece of paper in his hand. He's like, great state of Massachusetts Registry of Motor Vehicles, man. And Ellie's like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, yeah, you do. Because I can tell. But it's like, okay, you hired this guy, you would have records of his name if it wasn't real, like Social Security or whatever. So then Lee's like, Carl, Mr. Burhane's wife recently passed in an accident, and he's under a considerable amount of stress. And Carl's like, oh, yeah, And then to Lee, he's like, are we sure it was an accident, though? And she's like, sorry, Carl, what are you saying? And Elliot's like, what are you trying to say? He's like, no, I don't mean to imply. He lied to the cops about that, so maybe he's lying about this. And then Elliot's like, all right, forget it, I'm done. And Carl's like, listen, I'm not. And she's like, don't. And then he's like, who do you think I am? Some cracked out dirtbag like the people you usually deal with? And Carl's like, he's like, I don't mean to laugh, but you said crack? No one smokes crack anymore. And he's like, that's it. So Elliot starts to leave, but then Carl like grabs at his sweatshirt, and Lee's like, let go. She's like, stop. And then he's like, I will fudging sue you. And Carl's like, go nuts. And she's like, Mr. Burhane, stop. And then to Carl, she's like, WTF? And then Carl's like, he just lied like 5 times in a row. It's like, and she like walks after Elliot. He's like, I'll be here waiting right here. So it's like, dude, he was about to say something and he just blew it. Day 10, Oliver meets Sierra outside the building. It's like windy. He helps her like carry some stuff inside. She puts the magic sign up. Could this be the magic at last? And he's like, you think? She's like, well, you never know. He puts his arm around her. Then later, they're in bed. after he like gets up, he's like, I'll try not to bother you if I get up in the middle of the night. And she's like, yeah, I really hope you can get some sleep tonight. And then she's like, what's tomorrow? He's like, dot the I's on a library project, got to prep for a presentation. She's like, you sound so excited. And he like chuckles. He's like, oh, I don't know. Network design it's tedious. He's like, I'm debating about 6 wires or 8 wires. It's hard to carry, you know? And she's like, I never asked, but what made you get into architectural technology to begin with? He's like, I don't know. I sort of fell into it. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I mean, when I was younger, I was sure I was going to be an astronaut. And she's like, He's like, yeah, it's just so laughable. She's like, I don't think so. He's like, yes, it is. And she's like, I think you definitely have the right stuff. He's like, well, apparently I don't. I was planning to get a degree in STEM of some kind, minor in astronomy, but she's like, but what? He's like, I just sort of shifted into this. Maybe I was never meant to wear the meatball after all. And she like chuckles. She's like, what's the meatball? And he's like, the meatball on the spacesuit, it's been the logo forever. She's like, I've never heard anyone call it a meatball. He's like, what are you? That's everyone calls it a meatball. What do you call it? She's like, I don't know. I call it nothing. He's like, how do you not know about this? It's a basic fact. And then they stare at each other for a bit, and then she finally says, of course I know about the fudging meatball. And he's like, huh. And she like laughs. He's like, good. And she's like, you sound scary. And she's like laughing. She's like, you should have seen your face. Who do you think I am? And she's like laughing. And he like chuckles, but he's definitely not happy. And she's like, can I go take a bath? He's like, yeah, of course. So she clearly didn't know, and he was like flipping out. So she puts like some bath bomb thing, whatever. She's lying in a milky tub. Oliver, he like opens a drawer, and there's like syringes and like the drug in there. So he fills a syringe, and then, she gets out of the tub, and she comes out. She's like, I'm really tired. Are you tired? She lies on the bed. She's got her back to him, and then he like sighs. He's like, good night. And she's like, good night. Then he kind of looks at her. The syringe is next to him under the covers, because he like pulls the cover up a little bit. Then he sticks the syringe in his arm right there, right next to her. She's not even asleep. She's just like laid down. And then he's laying there or whatever, and then the syringe like drops out of his hand, onto the floor. So it's like she's going to see it, but she already took a picture of it, so I think she has seen it. And then, she's laying there. She opens her eyes, and he's like snoring already, so this thing knocked him out. She gets up, goes to her plastic drawer thing. Oh, one thing, okay. She goes to her plastic drawer, takes out some things. She pulls a hair off the top of her notebook. So it's like, did she purposely put it there? Because she mentioned the glass animals, that she did that. She put a hair over to see if it moved. I didn't mention when, I just remembered when she was talking to her mom, there's like a shot from like the hallway. You see a table, and there's like a glass animal. It might have been like a moose or a deer, but like the antler was like broken and sitting next to it. So, but there's only one. So maybe they lost all the others. I don't know. So she takes this hair off. So I'm assuming she put it there maybe, to see if anyone opens her notebook or does whatever. She opens it up, and then she turns the page. There's like a bunch of numbers. Obviously, she's like trying to open a safe. She goes to the closet safe. She's like trying different numbers, and it's like red light, try a different number, red light. So she's trying to, I guess, manually go through all the possible combinations to open the safe. And that's where the second episode ends. So obviously she must somehow know that he has money, and she's setting up this whole meeting thing, whatever, just to try to get to his safe, which seems kind of crazy, but so that's it. And he's got some weird past, but yeah, so I think whatever he's done, whether it's dangerous, but she's obviously playing him. He's not necessarily playing her. He's just withholding his past from her because he doesn't feel she should know or whatever. So, okay. So that's the second episode. Yeah. Maybe we'll keep going. I'm still curious, but some parts of it drags, but it's holding my attention. So we'll see. Let me know what you think. Okay, and now the movie feature is Scream 7. And so I think I mentioned before, the Rotten Tomatoes scores. I I just refreshed the screen that I had open, and it was at a 36% before. Now it's down to 33%. So it's going down. 33%. The audience score is a 77%, which is pretty good. So it means the audience likes it. Critics, 33% of the critics gave it favorable. So that's it. I don't understand what's going on. And as I was thinking about this, because every once in a while as I'm recording, I'll like look on my phone or whatever, and a lot of times, when you're on Instagram, you'll get like, here's a post on Threads, and sometimes what's annoying about it, which drives me nuts, because I don't look on Threads often, but a lot of times on Instagram, when you get the preview, you can't read the full thing. So I think they're purposely doing this, so you have to go to Threads, which is weird, because then it's like it's taking you out of Instagram, it's sending you to another app. Yeah, it's the same, it's their whatever, same Meta or whoever. So they're not like losing you, but normally they don't want you to exit the app, because then you're leaving their whatever they want you to stay on. So I keep seeing like people like so angry with and I saw this on Reddit too, because the Steelbook came out, or pre-orders for the Steelbook came out Thursday night, and as I was looking, I was like, that looks pretty cool. The problem is, and I know I'm going all over the place now. The Steelbook is going for $51.99, $52 to buy a movie. The Steelbook looks nice. I'm tempted, because I kind of did like the movie. I don't know if I said that yet, but $52 for me, that's kind of crazy. So here's the thing. I would say, yeah, I liked the movie, but some people are just like so angry. So that's what I was getting at. So when the Steelbook, people were talking about on Reddit, it's like, oh, pre-orders up and everything, and some people are like, oh, the movie is so bad, whatever. And I was like, it wasn't that bad. And it's another person like, yeah, it was bad. And then people are like, I actually kind of liked it. And someone else says, yeah, me too. The only thing I can think of, and I didn't mention this in news, but there are people protesting at Paramount. They're protesting Scream because, I don't remember her name, the one actress was she fired? Was she let go? I don't know. Maybe she was fired, whatever, because she had made some comments on social media that were construed as being anti-Semitic. I don't remember this whole specifics of it, because there's like so much drama and everything like that. I don't know if she was like a Free Palestine comments, or I don't know what it was, but she was making some statements. And people are saying that if she was saying bad things. So it's like, okay, here we got this drama. Are you on this side? Are you on this side? Whatever. And it's just like, one, yes, that is important. And, this is the whole thing. It's like, if you have a platform, you should be using it, right? But on the other hand, like, if you are an actor or whatever, it's like, this is a tricky thing. It's like, yes, you should be using your platform, but also, you're like, for me, I'm not going to give anyone political advice, because I'm not a political analyst. I can tell you what I believe in, what I think, what I see, what I can figure out using my intellect, but I don't think anyone is going to necessarily come to me for political advice or any sort of like, non-entertainment or math advice. But it's so that's a tricky part. And there was someone who also recently, who was it? Someone just said, I don't know if actors, I think it was Jennifer Lawrence. She's like, I don't know if actors should be talking about politics. They should just stick to entertainment. And you kind of have that. And on the one hand, it goes both ways. Again, if you have the platform, it's important for you to get the message across, whatever the right message is. Because so many times, the actual facts are misconstrued. It is like impossible to get like a straight answer these days, because things are faked, and I'm not just talking about fake news. And it's also weird because you're seeing different viewpoints where people, I don't know, because there's stuff that is so blatantly wrong, and then people are like supporting that side. And I feel like they wholeheartedly believe in that. It's like, how can you believe that? How can you support that when there's like all this horrific stuff happening? But some people really believe that. And is it that they're misconstrued? So it's like, it feels like if people are putting out false news, that if you have the chance to correct things, to say, no, wait, this is actually what's happening. This is what the evidence has said. They're saying that all this happened. That's not even true. There was no one there, or this person wasn't there, or whatever. So we got all this stuff happening. So because the actress, whatever, who was in 5? I can barely even tell you what happened in the last few Scream movies, whatever. So she was let go, and then Jenna Ortega's like, well, I'm not going to do the movie either. Because, solidarity for her coworker. Great, that's awesome. But then I was hearing that the actress was like, oh, she only had a contract for 2 movies. So she wouldn't have been in Scream 7 anyways. But people are protesting Scream 7 because she was let go a while ago or whatever, which that doesn't make any sense. You're protesting a movie that has absolutely nothing to do with this other actress. And yeah, okay, maybe it was Paramount that let her go. So I don't know. So I'm wondering, I saw this one person, they must have a podcast or something like that. It's not anyone else following, not anyone I ever heard of. They said something like, Scream is like one of the worst movies of all time. It's like top 3 worst movies. It's worse than Catwoman. And then someone's like, oh, we know which side of the whatever, you lie on. So are people saying that this is bad because they don't agree with what Paramount did? And again, I'm not saying Paramount was right or wrong what they did. I don't even know. I don't even want to get into the specifics of what was said, what they said, and whatever. I don't care. I'm moving on because I'm not directly related or involved with that. I'm not invested in that. I'm looking at this movie as this movie. So I hope people aren't holding on to this aspect and saying, I'm going to say that this movie is bad because I'm mad about this. You got to keep that separated. You got to keep it separated. And it doesn't make sense. You can't have these other agendas, because if you are saying a movie that's decent, good, if you're saying it's bad because you are mad about this other thing, okay, good for you for standing up for what you believe in, but that is not the way to do it. By you saying this movie is bad because you're mad at whoever, that is affecting the integrity of your reviews. So it's like, I got nothing against Zack Snyder. Let's say Zack Snyder made some comment. He said Back to the Future is a horrible movie. I'd be like, dagnabbit, Zack Snyder, I love Back to the Future. I can't believe you said that. I'm going to say anything that you do is horrible from now on. And that would be, he could do, like, maybe he's going to do a new version of Moby Dick, and it's going to be like the coolest thing ever. Moby Dick's going to be flipping in the air in slow motion and doing somersaults, and it's going to be really cool, and he's going to have like a propeller hat on and a leather jacket. But I'm going to say I hate it because I'm mad. It'd be like that. Then everyone else sees it. It's like, wow, man, this Moby Dick is pretty cool. He's Moby Dick. He's Moby Slick. and then they're like, what is Tony talking about? How can he say this is so bad? This is cool. And then people are going to be like, okay, Tony doesn't know what he's talking about. Right? Is that? So I don't know what's going on. So when I look at this, without going into specifics just yet, just as an overview, I was watching this movie, and I like the Scream franchise. I am not like overly invested in it, and when I was looking at the steelbook that came out, I was like, wow, that's a nice steelbook. I don't know if it's $52 nice. I don't like it that much. I'm tempted. I like the movie enough that it's like, yeah, I think I would like to own that if it wasn't so friggin' expensive. But as I'm thinking about that, I was like, you know what? I don't think I own any Scream movies, like DVD, Blu-ray, anything like that. I was like, that's kind of interesting because I like horror movies, in general. So I'm not overly invested in this franchise. And if you ask me what happened in the last movie, If you were said, okay, for $1 million, what happened in the last movie? I'd be like, oh crap. I don't know. Like, who was the villain in it? Because was the New York one the last one, or was that 6, or was that 5? I don't know. 5? No, 5 was Scream, right? 5 was the regular. It was Scream 5, but they call it Scream. And then was 6 when they went to New York, and it's like, what the heck is going on? I don't know. So that's the thing. I like the movies. I remember, like, I couldn't tell you what happened in 3, what happened in 4. I kind of remember who it was. But the thing with all these movies, even the good ones, you got the first one. The first one is classic. But then it seems like when it starts happening again, like, oh, here comes Ghostface, he's killing again. Who is it? Who could it be? And then it's like, oh, it's the owner, the neighbor's owner, or the dog next door's owner's uncle's car detailer was mad at you and is trying to get revenge for some reason. It's like so far removed, because there's no one left in the immediate area, whatever that's directly involved. So it's like we're pulling out, like, here's this long lost person, or this right here, this relative, or this person, and so after a while, we're freaking Scream 7. And I even when I mentioned to my students, I was like, yeah, I saw a movie last night, and they're like, what'd you see? I was like, Scream 7. They're like, Scream 7? So it's like, yeah, there's been friggin' 7 of these movies, and they're still continuing it. There hasn't many reboots or whatever. You know what I'm saying? When you look at all these movies, the way I kind of see it is, you got the chase, the murder, the suspense, all that stuff, the gruesome killings. But then when it comes to the reveal, I feel like that's where these movies kind of fall a little bit. The reveals are pretty much like, eh. So that's the thing here. I will say, without spoiling anything, the reveal here was kind of, or the mode or whatever, it's kind of like, really? But that doesn't bother me, because it's like you kind of expect it. That's a horrible thing just to be okay with that, but that's how it is. When I go to see these movies, it's not so much like what's going to be the killer's motives, but there's some cool things about it. So what we have, obviously, we have Neve Campbell back, and I was a little bit, when Neve Campbell's like, oh, I mean, was it about she wanted more money, or she felt she wasn't getting enough? Possibly, but if these movies are making a ton of money, then yes, she should get paid. What she should get a decent proportion of, or whatever, paycheck, because if people are going to see, people want to see her there. And that's when I first saw like 5, I was like, was it 5 and 6 or whatever? I was like, oh, was she in 5? Whatever. When I was like, she's not going to be in it. Okay, whatever. Good luck to you. We're still going to be watching this stuff and everything. But then seeing her back, I was like, oh wow, yeah. I kind of do miss her, not being in it. I'm a Neve Campbell fan, going back to Party of 5. I mean, I love Party of 5. So, I will be, Neve Campbell being in Twisted Metal season 1. I was like, great, cool, awesome. It's great to see her again. So watching this Scream 7, I was like, oh yeah, I do want Neve Campbell to be in these movies. She should be, because she is the original. She is Sidney Prescott. She should be there. So that being said, I'm that makes me excited. She's back. And then not only do we have her back, but we're seeing outside of the town. That's great. Let's go somewhere else instead of always being in the same exact place. So then we get to see where she's living now, because we got hints of it in the 2 movies, or whatever it was. And now we get to see, oh, here's her daughter. Oh, cool. That's her daughter's name? Okay, you named your daughter after this person? Okay, that's interesting. That's cool. Awesome. And, we see her husband. It's like, whoa. At first I was like, wait, she has a husband? Obviously, she's got kids. But then I don't know if I was thinking, is she still married? Is she divorced? No, she's still married. And we see other things. And then there are some callbacks. Like when you see one, it's like, holy crap. And at first I was like, yes. And I feel like that's saying too much. I mean, one is kind of obvious. I think it's been out there or whatever, but I'm not going to go into specifics. So that I thought was really cool. I'm totally on board with that. It's a kind of a crazy explanation, whatever, but I'm like, I don't care. That is awesome. I love that. That is so perfect for a cheesy horror movie franchise twist or whatever. So I can appreciate that. And then I don't know what people are so mad about, because I saw some people were saying that, oh, it was rushed. It was like a corporate, like they just wanted to get another movie done or anything. It's weird, because when I saw it, I felt like, okay, here's this character, here's these other characters. Who could it be? Who's the killer? Could it be this one? And we get a lot of like, well, it could be this person, could be this person. They do a lot, and yeah, it's a lot of the same stuff, sort of, but it's a little different. And there's lots of killing, some gruesome stuff, and but yeah, when it comes down to it, a lot of it, like the whole movie is like, really? But that's what kind of all of them are. So I don't understand why people are so angry about this. I thought it was entertaining, and I enjoyed it, and I am more interested in seeing this movie again than any of the last couple. I couldn't even, like I said, I couldn't even tell you. I don't even know who the killer was in the last movie. It was someone in that shop in New York, I think. What was the shop? Was it an antique shop? I don't even know what was in there. Was there lamps in the shop? I don't even know. Was it an old saloon? I don't even know. So I like this movie, and I like that. We see more, like the movie, like obviously it can continue. Who's going to survive? Not everyone's going to survive. And then some of that is like, oh man, really? You introduce us to this character, and now they're not going to come back? I would like to have seen more of this character, but nope. So we got these things happening. So I think that's cool, and I'm down for that. I'm excited to see more. And whether it was rushed, it didn't feel like it to me. Now, the other thing I want to get into, because I feel like I've just rambled so long about nothing really. So I saw this in Screen X, and when I saw it was coming, I had the option of seeing it in a regular theater or seeing it in Screen X. I'm like, well, I'm curious what this is, so I'm going to go ahead and check it out. And when I'm seeing it, I was like, how can they do this? How can you have a movie on the front screen and stuff on the side? I was like, where did they get the side stuff from? Because you can't just stretch the movie out. You can't just like cram it and fit, because it's like it has to. And it was like after I watched the movie, I was like actually in my car after I saw it, I Googled, is Scream 7 filmed in or something, what I don't know, filmed for Screen X, something like that, or Screen X format, something like that. And yes, it turns out that the answer was yes, it was filmed for this specific format. I'm like, oh, this interesting. This is a bigger thing. This isn't just something that's playing at this one theater here. Screen X is actually it's the next IMAX or whatever, another option. So that's cool. That means that when they filmed Scream 7, that they had to have cameras, like panoramic cameras or something, that they have all this stuff. It's like in the beginning, they're walking up to a house, and you see stuff on the side. It's like, okay, there's a fence around there. You see fences on the side and everything like that. So that's kind of cool because, and I always feel like when the main screen, I feel like they filled it up completely, because there's always like a little bit of top or sides or something like that. It's never full, but it's just like, no, it's like every square inch of the screen is filled, and then you got stuff on the sides. Now, what was weird is when I walked into the theater, because I thought like they put screens on the side. They didn't really put screens on the side. They just I think they just painted the walls white. And they moved the speakers that were on the wall. I didn't really think about it. They must have moved the speakers and put them at the top or somewhere. So it looks weird that everything is white there. And when it starts, this was something, because I was sitting a little off to the side. So I don't know if that makes a difference. But I was a little distracted because there are two projectors on the side walls. Because they are projecting on the opposite walls. So there's a projector, like if I'm sitting looking at the screen, to my right, that projector is projecting onto the left side. And then the wall on my left, that projector is projecting onto the wall on my right. So you got these lights, you can see that. That was a little distracting. Now, the other thing is there is a big crease from where the screen and the wall, meet. So you got this big line there. And sometimes the stuff on the wall is a little distorted. In the bottom corner, there is an exit door. So there's a little black missing part of the screen. So it was kind of weird. And it wasn't like the entire movie was like this. It's like, certain scenes, starts off, you see all the stuff. And then after a while, then the sides just stop. And you just have only stuff on the front. The main characters, like in the beginning, these people going into this house, that's all I'll say, they're on the main screen, but you see other stuff. They're inside the house. You can see them in the main screen, but you can see other stuff on it. Like here's a table, here's whatever, and here's this other room. Here's a poster on the wall and that. So it's cool and all that. I don't know if it's like $21.25, whatever it was. I don't know if it's that cool. It does seem like a gimmick. For me, it's cool to see more, and it does make you feel more immersed, like you're in the middle of it because it's like stuff's happening next to you and in front of you. But the creases is kind of a little distracting, and I don't know if it's fully necessary. Now, in a couple weeks, Project Hail Mary is coming out, and I noticed that this theater is going to have that on Screen X. So I'm like, I have to, and I haven't bought normally I would have bought my ticket by now because I saw tickets are on sale. So I have to figure out, do I see it in a regular theater? Do I see it at my local theater? Or do I see it in a Screen X? So I don't know. And $21, whatever, it's just how much are movies these days? I don't know. What I do know, I don't know if I mentioned last week, I spent $650 on movie tickets last year. I totaled it up. So I might see that movie, because I feel like with Project Hail Mary, because I listened to the audiobook, I'm really excited for this movie that's finally coming out. I feel like there's gonna be so many cool things like out in space, everything like that. I feel like that could be really cool. Scream 7, it was cool. I don't feel it was like a necessity. So I'll have to figure that out. But the Screen X thing, I would say, and when I was the other thing, it kind of ticked me off. I get to the movie theater like 15 minutes early. I was like, you know what? I have not had movie theater popcorn in a while. I've been avoiding it because it is so immensely unhealthy for you. Because if I get movie theater popcorn, I need butter in it. But just the oil for the popcorn is bad for you and everything. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to get some popcorn. So I purposely had a slightly lighter dinner so I could still have room for popcorn or whatever. So I'm there waiting. There's a line. There's a lot of people. And so whatever. And then there's this couple behind me. They saw there's Scream cups and that. They're like, there's a Scream movie? Like, when's that start? And then so I turned around being nosy, but I was like, I'm going to be friendly. I'm going to share what knowledge because, they didn't know. I was like, it starts tomorrow. It's starting tonight, but it's like really tomorrow and everything like that. And they're like, oh. I was like, yeah, it's actually in Screen X. I don't know if you've heard of that. They're like, no. And I explained it to them. I was like, I have no idea what it's like, but, I'm going to say it's $21, but there you go. And so, I enjoyed that. It was nice. And, they appreciated the information. I was like, that movie, there's like a big standee for Project Hail Mary. I was like, that's going to be Screen X. I was like, that could be cool. So they're like, maybe we'll do that. Because they didn't go, the lady's like, I think she said like she hadn't been in a movie in like 4 months. I think it was 4. I don't think it was 4 years. So whatever. So it was nice talking to this friendly couple. And I need to make a choice now. So we will see. Have I talked long enough about this? So I like Scream 7. I liked seeing Sydney again. I liked her daughter, and what I like about her daughter is they handled her. I felt like they did a good job with her because it's not like she's a Sydney clone, because Sydney's kind of keeping her sheltered and everything like that. So, this is going to be a strange situation for her. And she doesn't know, even though Sydney's life is out there in the books and movies and everything like that, she doesn't know everything about her mom because her mom doesn't want to talk about her. And so I like that whole dynamic and everything. And maybe it's because I have a daughter, knowing, having, wanting to protect your kid and stuff like that. I don't know. But I enjoyed that. And then seeing some of the other people. And so I don't understand why so many people didn't like it. And I honestly hope that it's not because people are protesting the movie because of political beliefs that have absolutely nothing to do with this particular movie. And I don't know. So make your own choice. But I would say if you get a chance, maybe not necessarily for this movie, but if there's a theater by you that's doing Screen X, I would check it out. It's worth seeing because it could catch on, or maybe it won't catch on. But the fact is, they filmed this movie. They knew they were filming it for Screen X. They had to have some sort of wide camera or whatever to get all this extra footage that they could put on there. So that, I would think, makes it a little more costly. So who's paying for that? Is the Screen X projector people like, hey, we'll give you an incentive or some sort of do something if you do it in this form? There's got to be some sort of reason to do that. Or if they're saying, hey, maybe they're saying, we're going to be able to sell these tickets for more. You'll make more money. It'll add to your box office. I guess there's that. Because, people go to IMAX movies, they're paying more. So that means the movie studios are getting more money because movie studios get most of the box office money. Theaters get a teeny tiny piece of that. So maybe they're looking at like, hey, there's no way we can put an IMAX theater in this theater. We can't put an IMAX screen in this theater. It is just not big enough. But we could put some projectors on the side and we can raise the ticket price and you'll make more money. So you just have to film it and do this. And you got to make it cool enough to make people want to keep coming. Because I could have said, like, yeah, you know what? I saw it. I'm never going to see a Screen X movie again. But for me personally, I thought it's kind of interesting. I might do it again. I might see Project Hail Mary in that. If it was like this week, I'm probably going to see, I think I'm seeing The Bride. I don't need to see that Screen X. I'm not going to pay extra for that. But there you go. So I liked Scream 7. And maybe I'm crazy because so many people think it's the worst thing of all time. So it's like, what the heck does that say about me? It's like, is my taste going down? And I'm also looking at it as I'm not liking these comics, and I'm seeing like whatever people talk, message boards, people saying, oh, that comic is so cool. I'm like, really? I was like, are we reading the same comics? Am I just old man Tony not agreeing with anything? What do you guys, I don't know what you guys are thinking. If you're thinking I'm crazy, but I like Scream 7. I kind of like Screen X. So, maybe I get a seat closer to the middle. I tend to sit on the side, and this is like a post-COVID thing, because if I sit in the aisle, I know no one's going to sit on either my left or my right. If the theater gets packed, there's no one on one side, and then I can lean over because they're big, reclining seats or whatever. So I can lean over to one side and not have to worry about someone breathing on me, which I'm not that concerned about that. Otherwise, I'd be wearing a mask or not going to the movies. So see Scream 7, see Screen X if you can. But that is going to be it for this week. So big thanks to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30-ish minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. Last week, I did an off of mine about Back to the Future and moral ambiguities. Should you use almanacs from the future to make bets, or is that just morally wrong? Should Marty have done it? Because he's not Biff. You decide. You listen and let me know. This week I'm probably going to do. I think I have a feeling. I know there's a Silver Age Batman that I think I saw when I was going through my random stack. So we'll probably do that. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or 4. That's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. Okay, so I believe I mentioned already this coming week, movie feature, pretty sure it's going to be The Bride, modern. The cars look like maybe 1930s or something like that. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure Christian Bale was in it, and I'm just like, wait, what? So, okay, yeah, I'm down. We'll see where this is going to go. What else are we going to have? Then we'll have, I didn't mention it, did I? So Monarch Legacy of Monsters, first episode is out. I didn't get a chance to watch. I was like, okay, I could rush. I could try to. I was like, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna give myself a chance to breathe, and I'll just be a week behind. Yeah, I guess it'll be about a week. I don't know. That's something else I've been thinking about. I don't know. I wonder. I need like user surveys or something like that. I just wonder. How much does it matter? How much do the shows matter? How much do the recaps? Do you care about the recaps? The other thing I've been wondering, do you care about the comics? Because I'm looking at sometimes the numbers, because I'm math and I care about numbers, or I'm not that I care about the numbers, but I'm curious about the numbers. And I always try to say, is there a pattern? Because sometimes one episode does really well and another one does really low, and I'm trying to figure out like what is the difference? It's like the same shows. So that must mean that people are, and there could be like, maybe someone didn't get a chance to listen to it because something happened, or on vacation, or their Aunt Gladys was in town, or whatever. So I know there's different things like that. But part of me, I always wonder, is it the movies? Because it feels, I sometimes see a pattern with the movies. I think I've mentioned this before, where sometimes it seems like if it's a smaller, obscure movie, that tends to get more views than if it's like a big Marvel movie or whatever. I think it's weird. And I don't know if it's a matter of, well, someone doesn't want to listen to the next Marvel movie because they're worried that there might be spoilers. Then maybe they're like, well, I'll wait until I see it in a month and then I'll go back and listen to the episode. Or maybe at that point they forget about it. I don't know. So I'm always curious what people want in the show, because I'll talk about these shows. I'll do I strongly believe, I want to have the recaps there in case you are curious, but maybe you don't have time to watch, but you're in your car, you're on the bus or whatever. So, yeah. But then again, if you're just like, yeah, I don't need that, you can just talk about, do the news and talk about a movie, boom, 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 hour podcast or less. I don't know. So that's I've been thinking about that a lot. It's like, do we need the TV shows? And I harp on this so many times. I know it's probably so annoying when I talk about like 56 days, all episodes are out. Should I still talk about it? I'm almost wondering, it's like, I don't know. I'm invested in the show. I don't know if I should talk about episode 3, 4, or 5, the rest of the episodes. Maybe you're curious, or do I condense that? I don't know. So we'll see. But next week, if all goes according to plan, we'll talk about Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 2, Episode 1 next week. Even though by the time, like, Episode 2 will be, you get what I'm saying. So we'll have that, more Wonder Man, more Hijack, and all that. I don't remember now. So that is going to be it. This has been a long day for me, long week. I hope you are doing well. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you are taking care of yourself. I hope you find time to do fun things. And I hope you remember, be good to each other.